लेंगे पटना।
हेलो सर। सर आप मुझे, हाँ हाँ ठीक है ठीक है ठीक है, हो गया मैंने देख लिया बस।
हेलो,
गुड आफ्टरनून सर।
गुड आफ्टरनून, कैसे हो?
बस सर
अभी
बढ़िया।
घर से हो?
यस सर, यस घर
ओके,
से।
चलिए, बहुत अच्छा।
जी
Carry on.
गुड आफ्टरनून सर।
हाँ जी, गुड आफ्टरनून प्रवीण जी।
जी सर।
हाँ, बहुत बढ़िया संभाल रहे हैं सर।
थैंक यू।
हाँ, मैं एक बार ऑफलाइन होता एक
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Welcome to Maharaja Agastyan Institute of Management Studies, ma'am.
Thank you.
We are going to just start in a minute.
Yes. Okay, I'll just unmute myself, ma'am. When you start, you just let me know.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Yeah.
Shweta, ma'am.
Yes.
And let me know when to start, ma'am.
Yeah. We'll start after 2 minutes. All right.
Yeah,
Please start.
A very good afternoon, one and all. I welcome you all to the post-lunch session of the one-day national webinar on the topic Gender-Based Violence in Digital Space, sponsored by the National Commission for Women and organized by Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, New Delhi. One of the stark realities every Indian faces today is that of endemic gender-based violence. It is rampant, systemic, and deeply embedded within our socio-cultural ecosystem. All of us at some point in time have either faced or witnessed gender-based violence. And as members of progressive thinking academic community of teachers and students, we all have a responsibility to change this grim reality. And as they always say, you cannot change something that you do not know. In this regard, this post-lunch session will discuss different facets of gender-based violence, particularly in the digital space, to sensitize our students regarding the ways of both coping and overcoming gender-based victimization. The technical session is going to discuss the topic, challenges in ensuring access to justice to the victim of gender-based violence. To deliberate on this topic, we are privileged to have with us India's leading cyber victim counselor, researcher, academician, and legal expert in the areas of cyber laws and gender rights, Professor Dr. Debarati Halder. I, on behalf of Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, extend a very warm welcome to Professor Halder to this technical session. Before I request Professor Halder to enlighten us on the topic of the session, let me highlight a few high points from her very illustrious career. Professor Debarati Halder is a PhD holder from National Law School of India, University, Bangalore. She is presently working in United World School of Law, Karnavati University as a full professor, and is also the Managing Director of Center for Cyber Victim Counseling, an online not-for-profit organization helping and counseling the victims of internet and digital communication crime. Professor Halder has been a recipient of 2 prestigious awards in 2019, and the awards are Web Wonder Woman Award by Ministry of Women and Children Affairs, Government of India and Twitter, and Tech Next India 2019 Best Faculty of the Year Award by Computer Society of India. Professor Halder has been in the forefront of theorizing the phenomenon of online victimization and has developed a theory called Irrational Coping Theory for Online Victimization, which has been published as a chapter in an edited book by Routledge Publication, United Kingdom. She has also assisted many international bodies, including UNICEF India, in creating child online safety related material and child online protection in India. She has also worked with National Commission for Women and many state commissions for women, including those of Bihar, Kerala, West Bengal, Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Assam, to name a few, helping them shape new policy guidelines towards protection of women and children from online offenses. Dr. Halder is also an independent legal researcher and has authored 5 books, all published by Sage Publication, and the topics of the works include child sexual abuse and protection laws, cybercrime against women in India, to mention a few. Dr. Debarati Halder is also the founding secretary of South Asian Society of Criminology and Victimology and founder associate editor, book review of 2 Scopus UGC listed journals, namely International Journal of Cyber Criminology and International Journal of Criminal Justice Sciences. She was also invited to speak in the Stockholm Criminology Symposium in 2012 and has been an expert resource person on cyber law, cybersecurity, cyber crimes against women, and has spoken at various national and international policy making bodies, including that of UNICEF, National Commission for Women. Ma'am, it is indeed a privilege that we have such an expert resource person as you to speak on this very, very relevant topic, challenges in ensuring access to justice to the victim of gender-based violence. I request you to please elaborate on the topic of the session. And just a word for all the participants. The format is going to be that ma'am is going to speak for half an hour and her talk would be followed by a 15-minute question and answer round. Participants can put up their questions during the talk in the chat box, or else they can wait for their turn in the question and answer session that is going to subsequently happen after the talk. Over to you, Professor Halder.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I hope I'm audible and I have a PPT if anyone from your end can run it.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Yes. Thank you so much. So let me begin by congratulating the organizers for organizing such a conference, which I was listening to Anurag Deep sir, and I completely agree with him that these kinds of conferences should be something what we call as awareness generating platforms. Now, given the fact that I have been given this topic, that challenges in access to justice for victims of gender-based violence, especially online gender-based violence. I'm sorry, this online is missing. Now, the reason that, there is a twist in the story also, because I have been dealing with cyber crimes, especially cyber crimes against women for over a decade now, even more than that. And I have come to understand one thing, that this gender-based violence, especially online gender-based violence, has got a very bad impact on the physical space also. That means on the real life of the victims also. With this understanding, I will be speaking on the challenges, and I will be slightly touching upon the concept of cyber victimology that I have been developing for quite some time now. And hopefully my book would also be coming up on this by next year. Can we go to the next slide, please? Yes. So since morning, we have been discussing about the forms of cyber crimes against women, that is online gender-based violence. And also we have also discussed about certain laws, especially from Indian aspect. Now, I am tempted to also throw lights on this, because otherwise I from my own side might not be able to go for the next discussions. So as we have all seen since the morning discussions, and also what should I say, the awareness generating links, and also the awareness generating materials, that there can be various types of online crimes against women. And now when we are using the term gender, I would also be explaining it or expanding it to include gender, including women plus transgender women. However, even though gender may also include male genders also, yes, of course, the men, adult men have also been victimized on the cyberspace. But given the scope of this particular platform and also this particular seminar, I would be limiting my discussion only to expanding the meaning of gender to women, adult women, trans women, and also children, including male, female, and also third gender, children, especially the young adults, or whom we call as adolescent children. Please do understand one thing. In my discussion, I will also be touching upon the male victimization also, because I would be showing that how male, or men, adult men have been victimized by women, and also women have been victimized by men. The first thing that I would like to start upon is that text-based harassment. Long time ago, when we were all in the starting position of introducing our Information Technology Act, and we were just getting introduced to the entire concept of e-commerce and also internet-related communication, that is ICT. And later onwards, it became digital communication technology also. What we got to see is that text-based harassment. Now, if you remember Ritu Kohli's case, which is a a widely spoken about case, we did get to see that it was basically text which were generated. Text was generated for victimizing woman, or later onwards, it started getting that particular the format that text-based harassment. Now, what sorts of what forms or what patterns of text-based harassment can be there? If we see from the very traditional understanding, it can be actually it started with email, harassing emails, or for example anything threatening emails, etc. Then it came up from the email, that means from one to one to many, that means defamation, taking the information about the woman from somewhere, from either from my own personal records or from the records of any other available data, etc., and then spreading that information in bagged color to the entire world to basically defame that particular woman. Now or to the to women. Now, please do understand that when I'm talking about text-based harassment at that era, if I start this right from the end of 1990s, I mean, even though we can basically see that, from the mid of 1990s worldwide, the cyber crimes against women started taking place. And in India, if we start talking about from the end of 1990s to the millennium and later, we would get to see that this text-based harassment basically became a prominent form of harassment for women, and which would be taking place through, say, for example, emails, or for example, any other broader platform which would be shared by other persons. So I don't know how many of you would remember Yahoo-based messengers or Yahoo messengers. And thereafter came the websites or web pages. Now these websites or web pages were basically a very novel thing way back in 2000 or even late 1990s. So these websites or web pages were basically mostly connected with the e-commerce platforms, and slowly this entire concept of web platform, or websites, etc., they were being broadening up to include some some organizational platforms, etc., whereby people would be knowing about a particular organization. So it became very easy for the harassers to gain access to such kinds of platforms, especially for the interactive sessions, and to share information about women whom they used to whom they wanted to target. Slowly from there, we do get to see from 2000 onwards, from millennium onwards, the boom of social media platforms, and with the positive effect, negative effects obviously were felt, and by that we do get to see image-based violence plus text-based violence also. Please do understand about the third category, third box. I'm not yet telling about this, but when this image-based violence started, then started the question or the actions of creating some kinds of profiles, of creating some kinds of images, etc. Obviously, with the help of cyber techniques, etc. But when I say about text-based harassment and image-based harassment, please do not forget that before even 1990s, the end part of 1990s, there are people who have been harassed by telephonic messages or telephone conversations. Now, I don't know how many of you are of my age, because I come from that age where we used to have landline telephones at home, and that landline telephones would be kind of like connection, for the entire family. We all would be having only single telephone line. I mean, there won't be so many phones in our home. Now, what used to happen is that because the telephones were accessible by one and all, especially in the family, so anybody who would like to harass women, they would be calling up at the middle of the night or in the odd times when it is expected that adult women would be there alone at homes, or even younger children, especially women, I mean girl children, would be there alone at home. The calls will come, and it will be anything from, for example, what is your name, and I would like to have friendship with you, to even giving some kinds of bullying statement or even threatening statement, just name it. But somehow I have seen that the literature that have been developed, that probably have mistakenly or accidentally or intentionally have not basically included this telephone based harassment. Why I'm talking about this telephone based harassment is that if you start searching for where would they find out that this number belongs to this woman. If any one of you are of my generation here, and I am damn sure that the faculty members are there who are of my generation, and also the students might also get to hear from your parents. There was a very famous like trick by the college goers or by the senior school goers, whereby they would be getting the phone numbers of girls and it will be publicly displayed somewhere, which means that the under the phone number there would be the name of the girl written either in pencil, pen, whatever it is, and it will be anywhere, right from the train toilets to ending in the walls of the colleges, or even in the blackboards, etc. So these were basically done to irritate girls and women. From there, slowly when this landline started reducing its appeal to others, came the question of handheld mobile phones. Now here there was a little bit of more privacy right was given to the people. That means my number, if I do not want you to know, you would not be getting to know it. But even in the other side also, we do get to see, if you remember yellow pages, those telephone directories were very good form of information from where people can randomly search. People could randomly search and they could dial any number, and if that was the voice of a woman, then just click your luck for it, either for harassing or for threatening and whatever it is. And obviously those phones used to come with a redial system that we do get to see in our handheld system also, and just keep on ringing that person, keep on disturbing that person until and unless somebody will decide that, nay, at this time I'm not going to pick up the phone. What was the disadvantage of these kinds of phones was that you would not know from where the phone is coming, most of the phones. Later obviously these phones were also equipped with tracking devices, where you would get to see that yes, the phone number is coming from this particular the call is coming from this particular phone number, so better not pick up that phone. So what I mean to say is that this disturbance, harassment of women, not the text based but the voice based harassment, it existed for a long time. When it came to the text-based harassment, it became even easier for people to go ahead for creating harassment, creating threatening posts, etc., or threatening content, etc., because once you create that particular text, it will enter into the computer, it will enter into the system of the victim, and also it might be visible by everybody, but the creator of the post, he can be anonymous. That means you cannot trace out who the person is. And that post might be shared, that post might be there, but the person who has created that particular post, he might be deleting his profile, he might be coming out of the entire internet, but he would be getting some kind of power, he would be getting some kind of techniques, etc., to share that particular post from one particular profile, one particular group to another group, because there are multiple profile arrangements that can be done by these kinds of social media platforms. After this, when this image-based violence period came, there started this question of taking down the profile or creating another new profile. Now, how it used to happen, as we have seen from the morning, the lectures, we have seen that, this image. What is this image? That is basically a photo image, or you do get to see image. Basically, if you explain it or if you expand the concept of it, image means anybody, any sort of idea, any sort of information about that particular person. And that is how this Ritu Kohli's case became so famous, because the name itself also denotes an image. Now consider one thing, that if I am a victim of any sort of harassment, I can get a phone harassment also. And the person who is harassing me, it's not the land phone only, because nowadays though we do not use land phone, but if it is in the mobile phone and I block him, and also the text harassment, etc., that also I have somehow managed to block him, he can go to any other platform, he can go to any other social media platform also to start image violence of mine, to start reputation damage of mine. How can he do that? Because he knows my name, he knows my profile, he knows where I work, he probably knows about my family also. So he will start creating some kinds of image, which we call it as a negative image, negative imaging. And with that, if he gets my photograph, Well and good. If it does not get my photograph, he can basically start, searching, data mine any images, and thereafter he can pick up any image he feels like. It can be a nude image, not with my photograph, but anybody's image. And he can say that this woman is this one, or this woman represents this kinds of body of or classes of women. Now, after this, slowly when the technology started growing, came the concept of morphing, even though it was long back, but still then I'm telling from the Indian perspective, came the concept of morphing. We all know that this morphing is now basically has been considered as a very traditional crime now. And if there is morphing, then we know that there are laws which can basically come up for supporting that. But the question is that which are these laws? And also when the morphing has been done, the question comes as who had given him access to that particular photograph. That means my photograph, and with that particular photograph with which he has basically merged these two photographs. Now, when this image-based violence was coming up, perpetrators, especially those people who wanted to take revenge, or any other person who wanted to create some kinds of content for gaining some kind of profits, which can be either ethical or unethical, they felt that there is a wider market for such kinds of images that have been created. What is that wider market? Now you have to understand about the net neutrality concept also. That means he is creating some kind of content, and we all are very fond of reading some kinds of this gossip pages. You accept it or not, but today if any content is coming up on Aishwarya Rai or, for example, Anushka Sharma, etc., and you get to see any one of their, morphed picture, or even not morphed picture, any sort of photograph, etc., which is in the local term we call it as juicy, which we call it as sexy, etc. You appreciate it or not, everybody would like to look into it because of their appeal, because of their profession. No, it's because of their appeal. It's because they are women. With this, I would also like to attract your attention to a very recent incident. How many of you basically have seen this Instagram photo of Milind Soman? That he is basically running naked, and I'm not very sure that whether it has attracted debate on obscenity or not. But yes, of course, when he posted this photograph, he is not a new person to be targeted, because long time ago, again I'm telling about those who belong to my age category, we were at awe for Madhu Sapre and Milind Soman's pair. So there was this photograph came up, which was considered as an obscene photograph, and it was taken down. It was for an advertisement. There was nothing like, it is something related with harming, especially harm towards Madhu Sapre or to Milind Soman. But now look at even the gender-based violence, how it can be expanded. That is, some people are telling that Milind Soman has created some obscene, image. Question is that who has taken the photograph? It is his wife. And who has posted it on Instagram? It is he. So the entire thing comes up with his own consent. His wife has taken the photograph and it has been posted on Instagram or any other social media profile. And we, the common people, we love Milind Soman. We love his body. We love the way he's living. So we are making it viral. So from here, you do understand that the entire concept of making a person negatively or positively popular, is in our hands. That means how we are consuming that particular content. From image-based violence, we will come to audio-visual content-based violence. Now, what is the meaning of this audio-visual contents and how it is creating some kinds of harassing content or violating content? Consider so many cases are there, examples are there where honeymoon couple, their the first night or the sexual connections, etc., that have been secretly collected, that have been secretly taped, and it has been produced for some other unethical gain. Or even leave this sexual things between the two couples. There are so many examples of spy cam in the washrooms, spy cams in the trial rooms, etc. And there also you do get to see entire audio visual things would be recorded by somebody, and it would be immediately then and there it would be immediately shared to some other platforms. In this, I have this example, which is in almost all my researches, I have basically shown it. Consider these cases of metro, station, compromising situations of boys and girls. not only metro station, this kinds of what you call contents, but you just consider, like, Anurag sir was talking about the public photography. I have a small addition to this. I come from Bengal, and most of you know about Victoria Memorial in Bengal. Now, Victoria Memorial was basically considered as the lovers' park, just like how you have in Bangalore. I think there's this Lalbagh Park, and which was considered as a lovers' park. Victoria Memorial, it has got lots of beautifully, like, shaped trees or plants. So when we were very young, we used to go to Victoria Memorial because earlier, please do remember that earlier it was free of cost. Anybody could go inside, and we used to see that during this, like, pleasant, pre-winter season, that is post Puja, Durga Puja session, or even during that, very hot seasons also, under the trees, almost under every tree, there would be a couple sitting. And this couple can be just sitting together. They can be even touching each other and whatnot. But we used to respect these kinds of couples, and sometimes the police would come and then they would be, like, making them go away because it is considered as a moral wrong. But nowadays, what happens is that the CCTV cameras that are installed in different public places, even they are also capturing these moments. So it is not only somebody privately capturing a private moment, but also somebody is publicly capturing the private moments of people. Obviously, I do not support crossing the so-called, moral boundaries in the public place. But again, just see the examples, just see the contents that are available on YouTube, that are available on other XXX video sites, etc., where you do get to see that there are some funny videos are also there. There are some amateur porn videos are also there, where the private moments of people basically have been exposed in a very wrong color. Consider again, I can even give you some other examples also. Consider again, like this funny wedding videos. How many of you consume that? How many of you see that? I don't know, but I'm one of the biggest fans, not for seeing this kinds of privacy violation things, but because at the beginning when I started seeing them, I thought that there is something really funny in that. But then when I started getting to see all these things, it turned into my own research interest. Why? Because did they give you the permission to share these things in a different color to the entire world? What happens is that very recently I saw one of the audiovisual contents. This video content came up where it's in Bangla. One person was speaking, he was as if giving a commentary that the woman was not happy with the marriage. So she was making face, and the husband, the new husband, he was sitting beside and she was making face, and then there were so many comments coming up that the woman probably is either not satisfied with the husband, probably she had an ex-boyfriend, probably she is not happy with the entire situation, how she is getting married, etc. Do you think that this is also kind of harassment? In my understanding, it is. Because these kinds of women, they probably did not know also at that time that they are going to be violated, they're going to be harassed on their D-days. We don't know that, when this particular video or the club of videos or the cluster of the videos, they will be reaching them, they will be reaching their husbands, and from there the domestic violence will be starting. Nobody will be basically targeting the men, but it is the women probably who would be told so many things, because everybody is looking at the women's posters, women's expressions, etc. Obviously, with audio visual content based violence and also image based violence and obviously text based violence, we have seen that women and girls, especially girls, they have also been violated. Now, now that we have discussed a little bit about the forms of patterns of violence against women, I would be again repeating the same thing probably from the morning. You have heard what are the patterns, what are the known patterns, say for example, cyber stalking, cyber bullying, trolling, and then obviously creating pornographic, obscene photographs or obscene contents, and then obviously coming the question of copyright violation. That's what Anurag Dipso was also telling. Suppose, for example, anybody clicks the picture of any woman or even a man in the public place or in any other place, the question of the copyright violation comes up when this man can click it, provided there is no statement as such that, or this woman also can click it, provided there is no statement as such that here photography is prohibited. There is nothing like that in public places. I have seen, basically, I have also visited so many parks, etc. specifically to understand my research, question, I have hardly seen that there is something written that, photography is prohibited here. If you go to any water body or water parks, or even, for example, if you go to any sea beach, etc., I have not found in much of the sea beaches that it is written that photography is prohibited, which means that if anybody wants to, create some kind of amateur porn content, they can simply go to the sea beach. They can click the photographs of women and also men completely drenched in water, and then they can put it in any website, any platform, stating that look how sexy or how, appealable this woman or even this man is looking like. Let me tell you something about my own understanding, that when these photographs are uploaded in some platforms, etc., obviously the question of who has uploaded the photograph will come, and the person who has taken the photograph, he can come and claim that this is my photograph. But always remember that this is not something that I have understood from my own understanding, but this is something which I have learned from my friends, my mentors from across the jurisdiction. There, the Copyright Act has started being used for addressing these kinds of image-based violence, or even audiovisual content-based violence of women and girls and also men, especially on the cyber platform. Because most of the time, this is something which is very common nowadays. When you go across to file or report crime to Facebook or to Instagram or even to YouTube, you have to establish the fact that you are the same person who is being shown in the photograph, which means here you get to see the copyright basically gets divided. One who has taken the photograph, and the two whose photograph has been taken. But this is something which is not many people basically knows, but the social media companies are smart enough to know that we might not be knowing about it. So what they will do is that they will pester us that you produce your identity, you produce your official identity where your photograph will be there, and with that we will be using that photo matching apps, and then we will be blocking this photograph. What happens is that most of the time women or even girls, they might not be able to go further with this, and there comes even the the winning part for the other copyright holder, who might be saying, if this platform takes out this or takes down this photograph, don't worry, I have that photograph in my devices, not only one device, and I can continue to create contents like this in any other devices as such. So these are the patterns, and obviously last but not the least, we have got to see revenge porn based gender violence also. Now, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay. Now, I will also stick to, as I mentioned, that a criminological, victimological understanding about to understand that how it is created, why it is created, and where these kinds of gender-based violence are basically online platforms, why these are being created. Now, I would be using the cyber victimological understanding, especially the routine activity theory. If any one of you have heard about it, fine. One part of the routine activity theory basically say that there should be a guardian, there should be a victim, and there should be a perpetrator. And once these three are there, the perpetrator keeps on looking for the victim, keeps on looking for the lifestyle, which is also connected with the lifestyle theory, and also it keeps on looking for the guardian, that is the presence of the guardian. Now, this is a conglomeration of the theories in the actual victimological understanding, from where we can basically get to see that the perpetrator keeps on searching for the opportunity and also searching for the platform where he can go ahead for committing these kinds of criminal activities. Sometimes it may happen that the perpetrator may not accept the fact that yes, this is something which is a criminal act. Why? Because moral wrong, if you consider this moral wrong and also legal wrong, morally he feels that this is nothing but it is absolutely okay to do all these things. And that is the reason, as my previous speakers also said, and I am also saying the same thing, that clicking the pictures of men, women, children on the public places, many people feel that it is not at all a problem at all. And why not? Because we have seen that these pictures may become, or these photographs may become award-winning photographs. Why? Because they may be used or they may be showcased in such kinds of platforms. For example, when a person takes, like, he may be an amateur photographer, he takes a photograph and he displays his photograph for some kinds of, like, photo competition, photograph competition, or for example, any exhibition, etc. So what people will come to see is that they will come to see the expressions in the faces of people. They would come to see that, what people are doing. For example, when we had Durga Puja, there were so many trolls happening, on so many platforms, because some women did not wear masks, some men, they were wearing masks, but they were looking very funny. Or even in certain cases, we did get to see that some women who were, like, looking at the, like, Durga Pratima or the puja, etc., from behind the, like, windows, etc., they were not wearing masks because they knew that we are at home and we are not supposed to, wear masks if we are at home because we are at the protected place. But consider these things, that these are, did the photographer take the consent from these women? No, because he felt that, again, going back to the thing, he felt that I'm going to use this for ethical purposes. But we never know that when these ethical photographs become unethical photographs because they have been used for unethical purposes. Not only that, why we are only considering about the image-based violence. I'm also going to speak about the text-based violence or audio content, audio-visual content-based violence, whereby you would get to see that there are genuine perpetrators and not these kinds of people that who would be, clicking the photographs thinking that I'm taking it for a good cause. So these perpetrators or criminals, what they will do is that they will be always searching for a guardian. Who is that guardian? The guardian could be real life guardian. That means the girls or the, like, the child, that is the female child or the male child's parents or any other caregiver who would be immediately covering them or who would be immediately taking them under their, like, supportive wing and say that nothing has happened. If anything has happened, we are with you. This perpetrator will also be looking for guardians. For example, if the social media platforms were vigilant enough, these perpetrators will not at all be arising at all. But the social media platforms, that is the Facebook as a company, or Twitter, or any other company, you say YouTube or Google, they would always come up with their own excuse that we don't have 1,000 eyes. So you have to come up, you have to report the matter, then only we will be opening our eyes to understand that yes, you have been victimized. So in that case, you do understand that there is a guardian, but this is actually a kind of camouflaged guardian. The guardian will not become the guardian until and unless this person is coming up to knock the doors of that particular guardian and say that, see, in your platform, I have been victimized. And obviously the presence of the victim. Now this victim can be somebody who is a known victim, which is coming from the concept of interpersonal victimization, or the victim can be somebody who is an unknown victim. That means randomly I have taken the photograph, randomly I have taken the number, randomly I have selected a profile, and I have gone across to commit such kinds of criminal activities. When we see about the cyber crimes against women, like, concept, we do get to see that there is now, like, I know that so many surveys have been done to basically compare whether interpersonal victimization is greater than the non-interpersonal victimization. But in my understanding, both are going quite in the same range. You know why? Because when a person is victimizing, or when a perpetrator is victimizing, especially this comes when you get to see that there is a master, non-master relationship. I'm not using the term servant. When there is somebody, like, some caregiving relationship. For example, when a person who knows that he is the caregiver and under him, the victim is basically staying as a, like they have some kind of fiduciary or any other relationship. That means he or she is in need of care and protection. There are also such kinds of victimizations may go on. And where and why this will happen? Because the particular, that caregiver who is now the perpetrator, he would be knowing that I am the guardian, so I am the master, so I can exploit this person like anything. And from here, you did get to see the Me Too movement. The actual cause behind Me Too movement came up, because this is what we have got to see in the workplace victimization, also workplace exploitation also. Today, when I was taking my class, cyber law class in my university, I was explaining my students about the, the great photograph of Marilyn Monroe. Again, if you search on the net, you would get to see there are Hollywood, stalwarts, especially women, whose photographs have been taken way back in 1960s, 1950s, 1970s, and it had been taken in such a way to expose their underwear, to expose their private body parts, so that, we in the later age, or even like, people audience in their age, they will be consuming these contents with a great, feeling, maybe with sexual feeling. But the thing is that even at that time also, they would not know that, yes, there had been a relationship between me and my producer or my, like, director, where I could have come and tell that what you're doing is not correct. I have not given you consent. From here comes the question of consensual relationship. Even if there is a relationship between the victim and the guardian, that yes, the victim may not be able to give any consent, and she or he will be completely depending upon the guardian to give any consent, we did get to see that these kinds of relationship have been exploited by the guardian come the perpetrator. And these have happened, especially for child online victimization, or even in such cases where, for example, husband himself had photographed the wife and had made it public. Many places I have seen, even not only that, the guardian, in the sense, for example, I have seen stepfathers, or in certain cases, in very rare cases, especially from the foreign jurisdictions, I have seen the mothers. They have also done this mothers, aunts, or for example, stepsisters, or even girlfriends. They have also taken the photographs of the men, male victims. However, do not think that it is only women who are being victims, or the women are not becoming the perpetrators. Women are becoming perpetrators, especially targeting to women. Obviously here, the base question for where and how it happens basically depends upon the question of jealousy. And also, obviously, there are some other factors are also there. From here comes the question of making of revenge kind of porn things. And from here, you do get to see that the women or the men, they might create some contents, etc., whereby they do get to see that, yes, there is a reason for us to do it. And therefore, we have got a platform to expose these persons, and we are doing it. Again, when we get to see, or when we talk about guardian, there is one more guardian. I mean, I have spoken about the caregiver, that is the parents, or husbands, or the family members, or even, say, for example, the web platform. I'm going to talk about the guardian, that is the police. Perpetrators definitely keep on looking for the guardian, that, the presence of the guardian. As we are discussing that, photography in the public place, or even photography in the private place also, especially for photography in the public place, you would get to see, because the police is not at all looking into the the thing that somebody is taking pictures. So in that case, what happens, the perpetrators may start thinking that I can do whatever and whichever thing I feel like I can do. Now, consider again, when a person, say for example, when a film director is going to capture some moments in his film, he has to take the permission from the police officers who have got the authority over that particular jurisdiction. Quite basing on the same principle, we can say that, even if anybody is using any camera device to click any photograph where human beings are going to be captured, the same principle could have been added. But however, we did get to see that this kind of public photography, especially for human beings, making the human beings as subjects, that has not yet attracted the attention of the lawmakers, or even, for example, of the other stakeholders. And that is the reason in some places you do get to see photography prohibited is there. Some places there is no statement is there, but the victim may go ahead for saying that my photograph has been taken in an inappropriate manner, and also without any consent. Even if it is a good photograph, I would not allow you to take the photograph, because this is not correct, this is not okay. And obviously the next part is that where the person would be sharing the photograph, that particular thinking is always there in the back of our heads. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so now coming the question of who are the stakeholders for restoring justice. Once the entire offensive situation has been created, and thereafter we do get to see that the victim has come to know, or not the victim, but the sympathizers of the victim, or the family members of the victim, they have come to know that a victimization has occurred. Who are the chosen stakeholders for restoring the justice? Let me start from my right hand side, even though I was supposed to start from my left hand side. The right hand side, we do get to see we can knock at the doors of the court because our rights have been violated. Next, we do get to see in the middle the police persons. there, like, in the last slide, I was telling about a guardian, that is the police persons. So the, final thing that we do get to see, or we do generally do, is that whenever we get to see that we have been offended, or some content has been created which is harassing me, which is violating my rights, etc., we rush to the police for lodging the FIR, we rush to the police for lodging the complaint. And obviously, the social media platforms, first and foremost, whenever any sort of right violation has happened, as I stated, that the social media companies, the internet companies, they will open their eyes only when they are knocked at. That means when you report the matter to that particular social media companies. Believe me or not, I know that most of you basically know that when you have been violated on any cyber platform, even if it is something like the app based like communication medium like WhatsApp, etc., you can go ahead for filing a report against that particular person, and the automated system that will come to you, automated answer that will come to you first to block this person. So all the social media profiles, I mean, there are some people, as I was mentioning, there are some people, majority of the people, they would come to me and they would say that, madam, please help us because we don't know what to do. When I say that, have you reported the matter to the social media company or to the internet? They say, we don't know. Why they don't know? Because they have not been made aware of. And here comes the question of bringing in the third party, stakeholders who probably will not help for restoring the justice, but they will be helping to escalate the problem more. I'm coming to that in the next slide, but let me again explain it. When we say about restoring the justice, you have to understand it from the very positive understanding of legal, jurisprudence. That means that there would be whenever any victim comes up for reporting, there are 2-3 factors that we have to see. One, that the perpetrator would be arrested, the perpetrator would be punished, the perpetrator would be restrained from committing such kinds of criminal activities again. Two, that the harm can be repaired. That means the photo or the reputation damage contents, etc., that could be taken down. And also, if it is being shared from one platform to another, that could also be stopped, and that can be done by an order of the court, or that can be also done by the police, police and the social media companies or internet companies collaboration. And third, the most important is that compensation for the traumatization, etc., that must be given to the victim. And this compensation should be both in the kind, as well as in some kind of monetary benefits also, because I have got to see, and like me, many of you have probably got to see, that when there is any sort of bad profile created, or when there is some kind of communication that has been sent, because of that, the woman concerned or the trans woman concerned, they may have lost the job. Next, please. Okay. Now, as I was telling, that bringing up this third party stakeholders, I have discussed about reporting the matter to the social media company, reporting the matter to the, say for example, the police, and also to the courts. But here you do get to see the entrance of 2 more parties, that is the third party stakeholder. One is the NGO who could be doing good. The other is the hackers. Now, there are existence of amateur hackers, ethical hackers, non-ethical hackers. Let me tell you, the most of the women victims, they would come up to me and they would say that remove this complaint, remove this content by any way. Why? Because they are not aware of what is the effect, what is the impact that they're going to have when they say that hack this content and remove it. Because the hackers might also have the record of the woman's victimization. And the hackers, I don't know whether any one of you are ethical hackers or not, but basically asking this question, me and some of my friends are there, that we do not support even ethical hacking until and unless you're doing it for the police and you are authorized by the police, because these kinds of things basically will generate more criminality. And you never know that the victim might be coming back, or the perpetrator or the hacker might be coming back to ask for more money. This is a kind of it's not sextortion, but it is kind of extortion that might be happening, that your content is there with me, if you do not pay this much amount of money, then I will release it somewhere else. So it is kind of secondary victimization. This will also become a very big challenge for anybody who wishes to access to the justice, who wishes to access to the justice delivery machinery, because the victim will be knowing that means that I try to be out of the victimization, now I have entered into a second round of victimization. Coming to the question of NGOs, even though I also do have my own NGO whereby we try to help our cyber victim friends who have become victims of cyber crimes. But I have seen that there are several NGOs who might not be able to sustain in understanding that how to help. Now what happens is that they might be going ahead. This is not something that I want to tell something which is not to be correct to be telling. But here I would like to say that there are many organizations, there are many stakeholders, and there are many persons who might be, because they have been victimized, so they would like to help others. What they might do is that they will try to pull out the entire thing to make it publicized in the public platforms. What happens here is that they also might not be maintaining a confidentiality level. What happens in such cases, for example, the publicizing or publication of the rape videos. Now this is something which the law very strictly says, whether you see it from POCSO Act, whether you see it from IT Act, or whether you see it from IPC or Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act, just name it. It very clearly says that you cannot disclose the names of the victims. You cannot disclose the photograph of the victims. But in order to gain public sympathy, there are stakeholders, not only NGOs, but there are stakeholders, there are individual stakeholders also who might be crossing their limit. One example, probably all of you have felt it, is that the Kathua rape victims case. She was raped. She's a very young child. She was raped, and somehow some journalist probably accessed her photograph. Now, if you see POCSO Act, if you see JJ Act, Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act, coupled with the IPC provisions also, you're not supposed to publicize the name and designation and the photograph of the child. But it has been done. And once the Supreme Court came to know about this, they took a suo motu cognizance and they started telling that stop doing it. Even if you are trying to help the victim, you are trying to help the family of the victim, stop doing it, because you are now crossing the limits. Now the same thing is happening not only by I'm removing the name of the term NGOs from the negative thing, because I know there are so many NGOs who have come across, who have come forward to help the victims, and that's a wonderful thing. But let me tell you, there are some persons who might not be properly aware. And here starts the question of irrational coping, technique or irrational coping mechanism. So what happens is that the balance between the helping the victim and, putting the victim in more trouble starts. And that is the reason we always say, from the NCW and from, our friend circle who are running non-government, not-for-profit organizations, and also from my legal fraternity, we always say that first you know about the privacy rights. First, I'm coming to it. So first you know about the privacy rights, and then only you can go ahead for, addressing the problems of victims. Next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide? So I think this is where, no, the earlier slide. The earlier slide, yes. This is where just now somebody put a question here. How do I address the lack of trust in the laws? See, the main challenge is I have been discussing about the other challenges. The main challenge you can get to see is the social mindset, where the victim will be pulled back to not to go to report the matter. Why? Because there is this myth is there that if a woman goes for reporting the matter, or even a man also goes for reporting the matter, the reporters or the media, etc., they will be highlighting the entire problem. This is 99% cases I have seen. When I have told the victims, you go and you register the matter, they said that, nay, whatever you tell me to do, I can even go for a hacker also. I can go to the social media platform to publicize my story. But I'm not going to the police, because from the police, it will be now publicized. Obviously, the laws are also a challengeable question, because in our laws, there are certain offenses which are not recognized. For example, bullying, or for example, revenge porn, or for example, trolling. However, there are some other laws which are related laws, and that can be used for addressing, but still then this gap must be covered. At the same time, the biggest question is that jurisdiction. When we speak about cyber crimes against women, when we speak about gender-based online violence, we do get to see that there is no treaty as such with India, with other countries, whereby the cyber crimes against women especially can be looked into. However, we have got some other helping treaties also there. For example, if it is an online child abuse, then we have got this Child Right Convention and related treaties whereby the police and the other jurisdiction police, they can collaborate with each other, they can nab the offender, and they can, the restoration of justice can be done. But on the other hand, if you see that, it is a personal, individual victimization, unfortunately, we might not be able to, work as such. But again, we have to go through the other way. That is the, telling our ministry, then the ministry will be telling to the other jurisdiction. It is through letter of rogatory that it will go. And the other jurisdiction person, they can be seeing that, the magistrate, they can see that, yes, this is the case, and they can start working on this. However, again, jurisdiction and laws basically join hands when I say it is a challenge. Why? Because if you see, any offense that have been done from the other jurisdiction, the big question comes is that whether in that jurisdiction, this particular offense, this particular misdoing is considered as an offense or not. Thanks to First Amendment guarantee of the US Constitution, which basically has broadened the freedom of speech and expression to such an extent that even if that is being considered as an offense in our country, that might not be considered as an offense in that country. So what happens here? The woman victim, she will be going to the police, she will be registering the FIR, and even the police will also try to take it up to the judicial magistrate. Obviously, this happens in rarest of the rare cases. And when the judicial magistrate understands that no, somehow the tracking has been done and the perpetrator is sitting in the other country, then comes the question of the ping pong ball theory. That means whether I will try this offender or you will try this offender. In some cases, we do get to see that the ministry or the entire external affairs ministry, etc., they might, or the home department also, they might consider that no, this is a very big case, so that particular person may be extradited. But the question comes here is that if it is for the adult, women or adult men, can that particular country consider that this case is at all extraditable or not? Or can that particular country consider that no, we are going to try it, and we are going to try it as India could have done it? Now, this is something which is still developing, and thereby it is a great challenge. Now comes the question of victims' irrational coping techniques, and here I will come that how to win the faith over law. Thing is that only by awareness creating, and also only by giving them practical examples, and obviously showing them law's positive power, law's therapeutic power, because I belong to the group of therapeutic jurisprudence also, I think we can win over the victim's trust over law. Coming to it. Okay, can we go to the next, the final slide, please? Okay, if you see this, probably this will be having an answer to, how to gain faith over law. The first thing, obviously, because very recently, there is this, very erudite police officer who asked me that we are doing this awareness campaign. We are trying to execute laws to the best of our efforts, but nothing is happening as such. What can be done? The thing is that the social taboo must be killed. What is that social taboo? That means that one thing is that corruption-free officers and properly trained officers. Once the police officers, obviously there is a positive sign that now the police officers are being trained properly. You have to basically see that such kinds of police officers are posted in every pockets of India, every corner of India. And the moment anybody, even in the rural place also, if the woman comes up with any such kinds of complaint, the police officer must be acting on it. Even if, as Anurag sir said about cognizable and non-cognizable offenses, if it is non-cognizable offense, the police officer must advise the victim that how to bring all the evidences, so that it might start from the judicial inquiry thing, and even if it is a non-cognizable offense, it can be considered as some offense which can be investigated by the police, and the case might be starting, the investigation procedure, etc., might be starting. Criminalization, because as I say, that there are certain loopholes in our system which do not recognize several of the offenses, and therefore criminalization of such offenses must be done. And this can be done through the legislative efforts also. And this is something which is it can basically answer 90% of the cases. However, I do understand and I completely agree with Anurag sir when he stated that Shreya Singh's case brought so many negative results also. I was the first person when the BBC was interviewing that whether 66A judgment is a celebrated judgment or it's not a celebrated judgment. And I was the one who told that it is going to bring lots of danger to women. And believe it, the first victim was me because I was told. So, and because, people said that now we have got all the power to tell anything to any woman, and therefore anybody can be trolled. But that's the reason I'm telling that, there should be a law for limiting certain speeches, and that should be well defined. It should not be 66A as it is, but it can be amended. Next is legalization. What is legalization? Do remember that when there are certain kinds of legal ways possible, why not take up those processes? Why not take up those things? Say, for example, in abroad, I have seen that when the courts are functioning, in between the counseling goes on. So in our courts also, I believe that this kinds of counseling should be brought in within the purview of the entire, trial period and also pre-trial period. What happens in such case? The victim will not, lose hope on the criminal justice machinery. And what happens in that? In this case, I must say paralegal volunteers, legal aid cells, they must be brought in. And they must also be told about the entire sensitizing process, entire impact of the law, and also what awaits for the victim. So what happens is that the more the victim will be encouraged to bring the evidences, the more the prosecution case will be stronger. And in that case, the entire process will become something very strong for the victim to prove that, yes, I have been victimized. And finally, obviously, the collaboration between the stakeholders, that is the NGOs, police, criminal justice machinery, the courts as such, foreign collaborations, that is foreign ministry collaborations, etc., and collaboration between the academic institutions, free legal aid cells, and also with government stakeholders, and also the internet companies will create wonders. I will take up the the questions now because this was my last slide. I think with this I have made all of you understand what I wanted to make all of you understand, that is, what are the challenges. I will start taking the questions. So I will start. Yes, please.
Actually, ma'am, we are actually running short of time. If you can
yes, I understand.
Very quickly, yes, ma'am, answer the questions that have been posted in the chat. I just read out one of the questions. I think you've answered this question. How do we manage lack of faith in law and the system? I think your PPT has very well answered this question. And the other question is from Shivain Goel. And his question is, how can the authorities keep a check on this? His question is related to the obscene comments on the posts of famous actress. So how can the authorities keep a check on this? If we can have a brief, very brief answer, ma'am.
See, the authorities, if you might be indicating about the web platforms, so here also you have to go and report that particular content. The authorities, if you are indicating about the web platforms, they would not take down that particular comment just like that. Somebody has to go and report that particular content stating that it is obscene. But again, going back to the First Amendment, laws, First Amendment guarantees, you have to make them understand where it is obscene, because if they see it from the US perspective, they might not consider this as an obscene at all. So you have to make them, and that is the reason I do understand that the legislature from our side, from Indian side, we are working to a great extent to make, the laws very much universal, whereby they would also understand what is obscene in our place. It's like, the cases that we have earlier discussed, and also the other speakers have also discussed, what can be obscene in our place might not be obscene in their place. So we have to convince them that this is obscene. And like, as I am closely connected with Facebook, I know that they are also taking these matters now seriously. So it completely depends upon how you are reporting the matters and where you are reporting. It should be to the website concerned, and also if it grows in a larger volume, then definitely we have choice to go for the police.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for the very invigorating talk. Now, may I request Dr. Sanjay Mangla, Associate and Head, Department of Economics, to propose the vote of thanks for the session.
Thank you, Dr. Shilpa. And really, thank you very much, Professor Haldar. See, it was really an interesting talk. See, I belong to the background of economics, not legal background, but for a person like me, there were so many issues that which was picked up by you. And very interesting point was that you covered the violence against both men and women. Because generally the society thinks that women are the victims.
Yes.
I do agree with that the news which we get on a daily basis, I think hardly we find any news where males are, picturized as victims of any kind of violence, especially the digital space violence. So that was really interesting, and you covered lot of things. I think starting from the beginning, detailing about the types of violences that may happen in this digital space, but I think those same kind of violences may happen at the physical places also. And then what are basically the interrelations between the three stakeholders of this whole victimization process, be it perpetrator or guardian or the victim. And most importantly, that you throw a very important light on the collaboration between different stakeholders, because I have also worked in social sector, and I know the importance of making awareness programs and collaboration between different agencies to control these kind of things. So I really thank you very much for such an interesting talk for a layman like me also, who got to know a lot of important concepts and theories, of course, like perpetual theory and several others, for the benefit of us. And I think we all should work in this direction, that we should make the society and workspace violence free. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Now we proceed to our next technical session. In this session, we are going to deliberate on the topic cybercrime against women and legal challenges in enforcement. We are delighted to have as our resource person internationally acclaimed cyber law expert and IT expert, a prolific author, policymaker, and educator, Dr. Karnika Seth. I welcome you to the session of the one-day national webinar on the topic Gender-Based Violence in Digital Space, sponsored by the National Commission for Women and organized by Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, New Delhi. Dr. Karnika Seth has graduated in Masters in Law from King's College, University of London, and holds a doctorate degree in cyber law. She is the founder of Seth Associates and is the chairperson of Lex Cyberia at Seth Associates, which is not only India's but the world's first integrated cyber law research, forensic, and legal consulting center. Dr. Seth practices law at the Supreme Court of India, Delhi High Court, and other legal forums, and is principal legal advisor to many international groups and government entities. She has actively resolved many cybercrime cases in conjunction with the law enforcement authorities in India. Dr. Seth, consistently ranked as top-notch cyber lawyer, has been empaneled as a legal expert for various panels, including that of National Internet Exchange of India and Working Group of International Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers. She is a part of the expert panel of UNICEF working on children's safety in the online world, and is actively associated with International Center for Missing and Exploited Children in its cyber awareness activities in India. Her book, titled Computer, Internet and New Technology Laws, is considered to be an authoritative cyclopedic reference which has won a lot of awards. For this book, Dr. Seth has received Law Day Award from Chief Justice of India and Digital Empowerment Award for the year 2015 from the Government of India. Besides these awards, Dr. Seth has also been conferred with National Gaurav Award for exemplary contribution in the field of cyber laws in India in 2017 and the Eminent CIO of India Award in 2019. She has spoken at more than 1,000 seminars, conferences, and workshops, and has authored several books. Indeed, what a pleasure it is for us to hear Dr. Karnika Seth speak on the topic Challenges in Ensuring Access to Justice to the Victim of Gender-Based Violence. Ma'am, over to you. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. It's indeed a pleasure to be here today to discuss such an important topic. We'll be talking about gender-based violence and particularly violence against women. And I have spoken at other NCW seminars, and this is yet another opportunity to discuss this very pertinent topic indeed. We will be, discussing this issue. The way I plan to discuss this is in a particular sequence. First, I'd like to discuss a few cases which I've handled in practical experiences, and then go on to discuss the major laws. What are the basic laws which protect women's rights in India, and particularly regards to online media. Then I would like to discuss, the current redressal mechanism. What is the legal recourse which is available to a woman in case she gets victimized? And what are the current, latest, I would say, most recent landmark judgments by the Honorable Supreme Court in this regard? And what is the way forward? Where, in terms of, loopholes in the law, how we need to address those issues is what I'd like to discuss in this particular manner. Now, I just wanted to discuss initially, this is a very interesting case which I had handled. Once there was a woman, she and her husband had gone to visit a particular place, and they were staying at a particular place after their wedding. And sooner than maybe 1 week after they had come back from that particular place, there were certain videos and certain pictures which were personal pictures which went viral online. And particularly the number of the lady was also flashing, the mobile number, and she was receiving some harassing calls from people, obviously asking for some illegal favors. Now, that was the dilemma of the couple. When they had approached me at that point of time, they were literally, I would say, completely under depression, and they were on the verge of suicide, as I know that, that was the condition. I'm saying so. And what we told them was that there is a legal redressal mechanism, something like obscene content online, even if it's personal pictures, a complete breach of privacy, we can immediately take those down. So the main, main purpose at that point was that they would want this to be immediately taken down. So, and they were on almost 150 websites, those pictures, within a week's time. So those were taken down after we sent legal notices to the registrar of those websites and the hosting companies. And within 36 hours or maybe 3 days, the entire, all those pictures and videos were taken down. So that's when a legal process comes into being. Sometimes with a legal notice, you can resolve the issue. You needn't even go to the court. That was my first experience on that kind of a case. Now then, there were a case where a lady was being defamed again, online. Her passport and her other personal pictures, letters which she had written to an ex-friend, were uploaded by him on several sites. Again, this dilemma happened when there was a criminal complaint which was lodged. And when this police took action, they arrested the person, and the entire hard copy device, or the devices, the hard drives, and the all electronic media was confiscated from that particular person. So this was a particular case of revenge porn, because he was trying to basically threaten and intimidate the girl and asking for even monies. So this is the kind of cases which are there, and it's practical reality. We see them day in and day out in news reports, but these are quite rampant today. And then there was another case where a child, like 16-year-old girl, she had been bullied on social media by one of her class fellows who put a picture of somebody else and opened a fake account, and he was constantly trolling her and constantly bullying her on social media. So much so that he even put keyloggers as viruses in her devices through some embedded viruses in an attachment which infected her phone, and she was on a constant surveillance by that person. He could actually see what she's typing, what she's writing, where she's going, and that became so difficult with her that she knew that somebody was watching her all the time, and she went paranoid. So such patients, I mean, such victims really need more support in terms of not only legal recourse, but she needed to visit a psychotherapist also for that reason. And things were taken control of when the keylogger was detected. We obviously used cyber forensics to actually remove any kind of viruses in the phone through software and otherwise. And then this case was resolved by finding who's the person who's been trolling her and what is the fake account. The footprints of the fake account, the IP from which it was created, is what we need to see. So as investigators, they looked into that, and on the basis of a formal complaint lodged, the person again was arrested. So this is the kind of cyber crimes that we've handled, especially against women, a lot of different kinds of attacks. Then there was another sexual harassment case where a child was being cyberbullied because the person who she had befriended, she had estranged relationships with that person, and he was constantly sending her some private messages which were harassing. So now all these, if you see them, the kind of hacking also he did, there were multiple offenses. It was not just cybercrime, which is harassment or extortion or sextortion or revenge porn, but also he had hacked her email IDs and her social media accounts, and he was constantly putting morphed pictures which were obscene in nature. Now, if this is the kind of scenario that we are in today, you would not be surprised, because the NCRB statistics also point out, the recent statistics, that the maximum crime we have seen today in terms of digital media and space comprises of not just the data theft or cases where the prime motive is to siphon away somebody's monies or financial gain, but the second most rampant crime is against women and children, and that particularly being that cyber stalking, cyber harassment, or any kind of gender-based violence. That is what is the most rampant crimes these days. So given this background and given this setting we are facing in India, in digital India times, what is to be done is the question. Now, we do have legal framework in place. We have laws. We have the IT Act 2000, which is, takes care of hacking. If there's an offense of hacking, there's a 3-year term of punishment. If somebody tries to send any offensive videos or obscene videos or pictures or text messages, we have section 67, 67A. And there again, punishment up to 67A up to 5 years or more. And then we also have child pornography is banned, 67B. Then we also have other provisions like 66E, where there's a breach of invasion of privacy. Supposedly there's some MMS created. Some women has been, a hidden webcam has been put and her pictures have been taken without her consent. Those kind of scenarios are also covered. And punishments are up from 3 years to 5 years or more, cognizable in cases of 3 years or more, and bailable up to 3 years, and non-bailable beyond 3 years. This is what the IT Act says. Now, POCSO takes care of the children when it's a girl below 18 years of age, then she's a minor. And their sexual harassment, again, is an offense, section 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and these are the key sections, and there child pornography has been addressed, sexual harassment has been addressed. Not only verbal abuse, somebody trying to groom a child, entice a child and lure him or her into a particular activity which is illegal, asking for sexual favors, or even stalking somebody, bullying someone. putting somebody in fear that I will reveal these pictures of yours. All this is covered by POCSO Act. And publishing of any obscene information or creation of a video, again, is a punishable offense. Similarly, we have other laws like Indecent Representation of Women's Act, and there are sections in the IPC against video barbarism, and any kind of stalking and clicking of personal pictures. Again, 354 ABCD. You can see there are a lot of different provisions we have in India. But having said that, is it that everybody, every common person, every citizen of India, every woman, is she getting a redressal today? The answer, if you ask me, being a legal practitioner for the last 20 years in cybercrime and cyber law, I will be hesitant to say yes on 100% or even an 80% at this point. There is a reason for that. And that is because implementation is a challenge. We may have a number of laws in the country. Enforcement is a huge challenge when it comes to enforcement. Various layers. Number one layer is the hesitation to report. Should we not report? There will be a social stigma. As my colleague earlier, Devarati, was also talking about it. That is the problem. The mindset hasn't changed yet. That is the problem. But fortunately, with the Me Too challenge, I have seen a huge sea change in the way how people perceive these issues and how they are willing to, report now. And that should be the case. And there is no shame in it. There has to be a redressal for everybody. That is what is the main thing to understand. Then secondly, is that once the report is made, a helpline is contacted or a police officer is contacted, he or she, that police officer needs to be well trained to understand the sections applicable and immediately take action on it. We need constant training of these law enforcement officers. Unfortunately, for last 2 decades, we have been doing that trainings at CBI, at National Judicial Academy, National Police Academy, and there have been batches and batches of police officers trained in the same. But however, there's a huge population to cater to in India, and so many women still find it difficult to actually get an FIR done and registered in any police station. And that is something that we really need to work on. There is to be an immediate need for this. And I see a lot of women reporting such problems on social media, and then an action is being taken. So thanks to social media, at least their redressal is there and they are being heard. And the police officers are also working on it. There are some cyber cells, but we need more. We need more efficiency. Even in POCSO cases, if you see the conviction rate is like 2%. That is what has been reported in the media. So if you see all these figures and all these actions, if you see them, then we need a more robust mechanism to get enforcement done. That is another challenge. Now, when it comes to things like redressal, now what is to be done? Immediately report it to social media. That is, the company. If it's a social media space where the woman is being victimized, she needs to report it immediately to them. There is a public grievance officer of every website or a social media platform who needs to be written to, and they have to take this material down. And then comes the fact that, what is after all going to be done if you approach the court, in case you have to, if the redressal is made and the takedown happens, fine. But sometimes they don't even take it down despite actual notice. Then you need to move the court, and an injunction order needs to be taken from the court. I had an occasion to work on one of the cases of cyber defamation where it was a website abroad which was ordered by the Indian court to take down the content. Because if they don't do that, then the registrar of that website was asked to remove the entire website access from India. It would have led to commercial losses for that website. So even that website and the server were outside. They were compelled to comply with the law of the land here because they were catering to so many users here and they couldn't afford to lose their businesses here. So there have been some practical, interesting experiences in handling these cases. And one of them was this, that we managed to take that foreign company. It submitted to the jurisdiction of Delhi courts, and the orders were complied with. So that is the Delhi High Court's order. Then what else is possible? Injunction you can get, and if you've been defamed, you can claim damages. Damages 2 crores or more are awarded by Delhi High Court, and below that you can claim in the district courts. So that is the pecuniary jurisdiction, we call it. Subject matter jurisdiction also is there in the Delhi High Court, or concerned court you can report to. And depending on what is the damage claim, that jurisdiction can be looked into, where you need to file this case. Then also there is, in cases of data theft, you can go to the adjudicating authority, which is the secretary IT of every state. Supposingly, and then I've handled these cases also where OTP frauds have happened, plastic money frauds, women have been defrauded by social engineering attacks, and their accounts have been, monies have been siphoned away from there. So either they need to report to the banking ombudsman, or they need to report to the bank. If they reverse an entry, very well. If they don't, then we need to go to the adjudicating officer, of the state. So there also we've handled cases where they've been given a compensation for the money lost, in this whole sequence of events. So these are the kinds of legal redressal, apart from the criminal remedy. Criminal remedy, of course, you have to go to the courts of law, which is you need to go to session court, or in the criminal courts, the same courts where other criminal matters are filed. There is no special courts yet for cybercrime, which I really feel we must have, because there's so much backlog of criminal cases. And time and again, we've made this recommendation that we need to consider a criminal court for cybercrime, especially for women. There is a Mahila court normally for family law and other matters. But I think cybercrime specifically really needs to be dealt with a special court. In the case of civil remedy, that was defamation, as I said, you need to go to the courts in high courts, and they have the writ jurisdiction. The other cases, like the damage, for the case of data theft damages and other things, you go to the adjudicating authority. Higher than that, there is a TD SAT court, and higher than that, you can go to High Court and Supreme Court, from there. So there is an infrastructure in the country. There are laws. The enforcement remains a challenge. There have been trainings for judges as well. We have been constantly doing a lot of work on electronic filing rules, or on the point of, say, how does a common man e-file a petition or a PIL or any kind of a complaint online? Like there are online FIRs possible, there are also possible, you can, through e-filing mode, you can actually file in any court of law across, whether it's rural India or it's urban India. You can file any complaint online through e-filing court process. And then there have been legal aid, special legal aid cells created in every court where a woman cannot afford to pay a fee, that she's given a free legal aid as well through state legal authorities, and in every state, in fact. So there's a lot being done in terms of the spreading awareness and helping them get a legal redressal. Then somehow I have been fortunate to be involved in these, rule making, when we talk about policy making. And when I was talking about e-filing, I prepared that manual also. And I think I have received positive feedback from a lot of states in India where they have been able to actually file these complaints. And with the digital media being involved in every crime, every space nowadays, it becomes very, very crucial that our courts shift to the virtual courts mode. Today, in the COVID times, there have been so many cases which are being heard, urgent cases, online. So why can't we do that even on an ordinary, regular basis? Why can't we have special courts of such nature, which will create, relief for a lot of backlog of cases which we have, specifically for women and children cases? We can have that. And I also know that video conference facility for witness testimony or other cross-examination in POCSO cases is also being set up in Delhi. I know that time Honorable Justice Geeta Mittal, she was there as working on that project, and she led that project as well. And I think there is a lot which has been already done, but then we need to really look further and see how we need to catch pace with the growing cybercrime. Because there are so many new crimes which are emerging, like we have sextortion. I was talking about revenge porn. I was talking about sexting and bullying, trolling. So are the current laws enough is a question. So we will need newer laws for fake news, for instance. Any kind of fake news, even defaming a woman, it is there every day. There you see a lot of cases. So can we curb duplication of content which is defamatory to her, or duplication of content which is obscene in nature? Can we stop that through DNA photo hash mechanism, through various techniques? We have AI today, facial recognition technology we have today. Then we have data mining and other data analytic resources and technical tools available. Surely we can make use of these tools, not only just to make commercial gains, but also for the purposes of ensuring law enforcement mechanisms act more effectively. And you also, on a self-regulatory mode, social media platforms can use these technologies to stop duplication of such content once reported. I think that's very essential for us to proceed and look at the digital utopia that we would like to create, safer spaces for well-being of women, children, and even general population, everybody, in fact, not just one particular sector. So that's how I feel we have also been a signatory to the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Violence Against Women. Similarly, I also advocate there should be a convention on transborder crime, because I know live streaming of pornography and live streaming of women, I have seen and cases reported where a lot of women have been extortion has been made by enticing them into certain asking to click on certain links and then just trying to harass them. So that is also happening, and there have been offenses reported of such live streaming of harassment or prank calls and other things happening. So that then is transborder, it's not just in India. So how do we catch or how do we stop this from happening? So that is a challenge. So if we have cooperation with the foreign national, like foreign companies, say foreign law enforcement authorities, they will cooperate with Indian authorities and try and stop this, because otherwise it's a very long circuitous process of MLAT-led derogatory. So I think we need to closer cooperation with foreign companies. We've handled such a case also where, and so many of these problems are there in terms of international. There are rackets of crimes, specifically perpetrated crimes against women, and stealing their personal pictures by hacking into their systems, and then those pictures are again floated on the net on certain sites. So to stop that, it's a huge racket, and not just continuing in one country, but there are a lot of different people involved. And UK also, there have been some attempts to stop this kind of activity through various law enforcement measures. India also has cooperated in some ways. So we need this on a global platform now. It's not just a problem centric to India. It is something which is even globally needs to be tackled. Why just India? That's what I also feel. And if I look at the way Supreme Court has, the way it has empowered women is phenomenal, with the kind of judgments we've seen in the last few decades. If you see the Vishaka judgment and, how the sexual harassment, against women was being, earlier than Vishaka looked into, and then later on how it transformed with the guidelines and with the new act, which was enabled to empower women to actually voice their concerns and voice their problems and the crimes which have been perpetrated against them, and protected them from a lot of problems and crimes. They have been prevented with these new laws which have come into being. Then apart from that, women were also given equal status as a kopasana recently. Daughters have the same rights as men have, and the way the Supreme Court has tried to create gender parity, it's equal treatment for all. That is equality. Right to equality has been emphasized, and I think very upheld in these kind of cases. And right to privacy. The right to privacy also, has been the case, Puttaswamy case. So now a person will think twice before actually putting a hidden webcam somewhere in a shopping mall. Or these are problems, everyday queries we get Somebody has put a hidden webcam, somebody has put a virus, automatic triggers the webcam. The violations are many and the techniques of doing so are many, but with at least law being in place and with the courts in the country, the apex court taking such an active role in protecting rights of women, I think that has created a deterrent, some deterrence in the mind of people. So that is something which is laudable, and I really feel that I'm so proud to be part of the legal fraternity, and obviously I'm a strong advocate of women rights movement, and always like to contribute through whatever legal practice we built, and also through our NGO which I set up, which was FIRE, and we have conducted a lot of trainings across 14-15 states in women rights and child protection, including the Ministry of Women and Children. There is this NIPCCD, which is a particular body doing trainings, and then CBI Academy also has various trainings. NCW also does a lot of trainings, and I'm very glad that MAIMS today has organized this webinar because it is such an important topic that your institute has looked into, and this is something that we really need to work on a multi-stakeholder basis. All academicians, legal fraternity people, government officials, and I think stakeholders like corporates, technology workers, officials who are working for social media companies, or technocrats, any kind of, I would say, capacity that you're in, but you have a huge role to play in how we can enhance the cyber safety, not only for women and children, but also for everybody, because now it's the order of the day. It's the order of the day. We have to, communicate, work, entertain ourselves, everything online. So especially during COVID, this has taught us a lesson that we a lot of people used to be anti-technology, but now they have embraced technology. And not only that, the hesitation has gone, whether it's older people or older generation or the new generation, and it has a huge powerful tool for entrepreneurship, for women, for education. So we, I think, have to embrace technology, but be diligent in how we handle it and how we use it, and protect ourselves from a lot of attacks which are possible, or threats which are there online. That is the only way we can, be in the next, like the times to come post-COVID. That is how I feel. And having said that, I'm also glad that I was part of the cyber security consultation with the National Cyber Security Coordinator of India, and I voiced my concerns there for women, that women rights have to be protected in the national cyber security policy. The children rights, they should be given training right from the time when they're handed over, say a gadget or a phone, or in the school they are given how you handle a computer. They also need to be taught about etiquette, and that's exactly what is needed to protect our girl children, to protect our boys. It is essential, and the next generation is the future of India. So we as responsible citizens need to impart this education right from primary level. That's also what I voiced in this discussion. And I'm hopeful. I think there is a lot to be done, as I said. And I'm really banking on this, that we need to approach the safety of women in the cyberspace from the point of view that we have to be, number one, fearless. If you are a victim of cybercrime, or your known person has become a victim of cybercrime, anybody known to you, report it. That's what my first message is. Second, you must have a mindset that collect evidence, whatever evidence is there. Sometimes people delete it, in a rush. They don't want to report, and they just destroy the gadget. Not to be done, because then you can't prove what you have to prove. Third is, you are entitled to your rights as much as anybody else is. So stand up for yourself, because if you don't stand up for yourself, nobody will stand to support you. You have to voice your own for your own self. So that's something which I think, as a matter of self-respect, I always encourage women to come up and say what they have gone through. And if they have, they might make that mindset, then they're ready to take on a legal battle, then they're ready to put this whole process into criminal prosecution. So that is important. It is important because not only for your own self, but you set an example for others to also follow. So that's something we really need to tell people. And number 4, you need to obviously have faith in the system. There are mechanisms available. There are women helplines. NCW is there. There are other organizations you can always get support from. And then there is free legal aid as well. So that's also possible. And supporting NGOs are there to work on it. And then there is a court mechanism. The courts of the country of India, they are robust enough in terms of procedure and other processes where one can at least take on a legal recourse if needed and if properly guided. Definitely we can always improvise on it. There is definitely a scope for that, and that's what we are positively looking for a more robust national cybersecurity policy, which also protects women and children. Number 2, we're also looking forward to a better enforcement mechanism from police and other judicial officers. We are also looking forward to having greater participation from NGOs and other organizations. And number 5 is awareness, because unless the awareness reaches everybody, the mindsets will not change. And when the mindsets don't change, the step 2 doesn't come into being. So with this, I think I would have, I've discussed most of what I'd like to, but I'm ready for taking questions from your audience in case there's any.
Yeah. We have many questions, ma'am. Your talk on the topic of the session, cybercrime against women and legal challenges in enforcement, was really invigorating, and we have a lot of questions pouring in. I think I will read out a couple of questions, and then post this, students are going to themselves ask you a few questions. One of the questions that we have from Anubhav Gupta is, he says, the knowledge and understanding of laws and aids for facing such challenges are not known by all. How can it be accessed and shared to generate such awareness at a personal level, as not every one of our peers know about them in the manner in which it can be used to fight against these challenges? And ma'am, if I can take the second question so that you could, would that be okay? Yeah. Another question is from another student, Nikita Kaimal, and she says, are you of the opinion that women are somewhat responsible for the crimes committed against them in the cyberspace?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so answer to my, my question, the question number 1, my answer would be that, there are various resources available. Even, for UGC, I have also authored cyber law courses. Most of them are, available online. Some of them are even free. You can look at Vikaspedia, ePathshala, MOOC. All these are available online. And also we have a channel, we created specifically for this reason of awareness called Cyber Law India. If you go to that channel, you will find number of, such webinars where we're imparting legal awareness, cyber awareness for everyday use for people. So you can actually benefit a lot from watching those small videos. And I think it's the easiest way to learn today, right? YouTube. So if you look at that, or if you want to enroll on short courses, there are also courses. We had also done a course, FIRE had conducted a course of 3 days, but we will also, have the same very soon again. So in case you want, you can always look at various resources available online. So that will be a good means of learning. But I would caution you should go to only such sites which are credible and which have a certain level of experience in that area. Then obviously you would get the right information from there. That's something that I would suggest. Please go to Cyber Law India and just subscribe. You will be abreast of all the laws which are in this space. Yeah. Second question was about, are the women responsible? I don't think so, because when it comes to responsibility or own accountability, I think it applies across any gender. So if you are negligent in a particular way, then whether it's a man or a woman, he or she is at fault. So a lot of times, supposingly, I've seen cases where the woman has not read the terms and conditions of a website and uploaded her content without realizing that she's maybe putting her personal pictures in a safer lock, like a safe vault, but not read the terms and conditions. And in one of the cases, it happened that she had clicked on that I agree, and without setting the parameters. So the next morning she realizes that entire pictures have gone viral in social media because there was a no option taken only for private viewing there. So in such a scenario, who can you hold responsible? So we have our safety, I think, to a lot of extent lies in our hands. But there are certain cautions which one must take as a responsible net user, that we only engage with people who we know or we trust, or we put up only those things online which we want to, and we read whatever is there in terms and conditions and then only accept and proceed ahead. So I think that is how I view it. I don't think women are the reason for you know uh, maximum crimes happening. It is also the other way around. A lot of times when criminals are looking for internet as a haven because they feel they will be anonymous, so they are perpetrating these attacks online which used to be offline. So all theft of data, or all extortion and other blackmail and other kinds of crimes, harassment is happening through online means. And some of the times they are people who are acquaintances and known, and they are contacting them online because they want to be hidden. So that is the thing is, and some of it is that you need to be careful. That's all I would say, whether it's a man or a woman. I don't think anybody is to be blamed for it particularly.
Yes. Ma'am, I have another question from a student. His name is Shivain, and he's asking you how to prevent, or for that matter, even check or verify the discriminations, crimes, and issues that take place on the dark web.
I know dark web is a space which we don't know what will happen there, because there are a lot of illegal activities happening, and a lot of criminals are using Tor and other methods to garb their real identity, and they take on a fake identity. Whether it's deep web, dark web, I mean, there's a lot happening. You cannot possibly verify a lot of content there. However, you can see the HTTPS if it's secure socket layer. Is it that kind of a protocol, or there are some credible brands, obviously, or companies you trust, and you expect them to have the right information there. Then Mac has a lot of times it give you a caution if that's not a safe website to go to. Even otherwise, softwares are available which will caution you whether you use a VPN or otherwise. It will caution you that this website is not secure. So kindly don't go and view it, or view it at your own risk. So then you have to be careful, because there are filters possible, there are technical means possible to judge or to find out how whether this is a safe website to go to or not.
Yeah. Ma'am, we have a question from Anchit Kaur. And she's asking, as we know, youth is the most affected group of such crimes. What role does youth play in this, or what can be done from our side?
Well, from the youth side, I think it's most important that you spread the word around. And if there is anybody, maybe make a club in your college or a school to have, discussion about these things. Because there are school counselors also, there are college clubs and counselors also. Sometimes in open, I also go to interact with so many colleges. I've interacted online also. They are reluctant, women would be reluctant to discuss their programs in a seminar or a webinar, but later on they will write to us. So similarly, I would encourage that, in a smaller setup or unit in a club, I think it's possible, or with this direct interaction with the school counselor or the college counselor, it may be possible. You need to, as youth, spread this word around, have a voice, on this issue, that you need to support each other in terms of being each other's strength, and also try and report if there is anything that you see, or somebody being victimized or bullied, help them, That's what's really needed. And I'm very disturbed to see the kind of suicide attempts happening, young children getting into depression. And these days, specifically COVID times, they're all indoors and they're not playing the way they used to be. And girl children, there are different patterns of routine nowadays. So I see a lot of crimes perpetrated. 86% it rose during this COVID itself. So you need to give them a lot of support. You need to give them, help them, in, I would say, in cooperation with each other, and try and spread the word around. I think that will really help. Create resources and tools online. Create your own materials, reading materials, circulate them, write articles. There's a lot to be done. I mean, there are different means, and everybody may not be, suited. Particular means may not be suited to somebody. Whoever wants to express himself, there are various ways to do that today, and especially on digital media. Choose your own, take your own pick, what you feel is best way of your expressing that particular topic or that theme, right?
Thank you, Dr. Seth. Thank you so much for patiently answering all our questions. Now, may I request Ms. Sarita Garg, Associate Professor and a Senior IT Faculty, Department of Business Administration, to please propose the vote of thanks for the session.
Please.
Thank you very much, Shilpa ma'am. This very inspiring and enlightening session reminds me of an inspiring quote by Martin Luther King: "An individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity." A very good afternoon to all. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this valuable and a learning occasion. I thank our resource person, Dr. Karnika Seth, cyber law expert, Supreme Court of India, who despite her busy schedule has found time to grace this occasion and enlighten us on the burning topic of cybercrime against women and legal challenges in enforcement. Ma'am, I very much agree with you that it's the perception that needs to be changed. Without perception, nothing can be enforced. So it was indeed a very enlightening and knowledgeable session. Thank you very much, ma'am, for sparing your time for us. Thank you, ma'am.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure interacting with everyone today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Sarita ma'am. Now, moving to the final technical session of this one-day national webinar on the topic Gender-Based Violence in Digital Space, sponsored by the National Commission for Women and organized by Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, New Delhi. In this session, we'll be deliberating on the topic Gender-Based Violence Issues and Concerns. To deliberate on this topic, we have with us Dr. Pavan Dugal, a practicing advocate, Supreme Court of India, an expert and authority on cyber law, cyber security law, artificial intelligence law, and e-commerce law of international repute. I, on behalf of the organizing institute, extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Pavan Dugal, who would be speaking on this topic. Before I invite Dr. Dugal to speak, let me take a few minutes to underscore few of his many achievements from his exemplary career. Dr. Dugal has been acknowledged as one of the top 4 cyber lawyers around the world. Dr. Pavan Dugal is the founder and chairman of International Commission on Cybersecurity Law. He is also the president of cyberlaws.net and has been working in the pioneering area of cyber law, cybersecurity law, and mobile law. Dr. Dugal is also heading the Artificial Intelligence Law Hub and Blockchain Law Epicenter. He is the founder cum honorary chancellor of Cyber Law University. Dr. Dugal has been empaneled as a consultant on cyber law and cybercrime respectively by international organizations such as United Nations Conference on Trade and Development and United Nations Economic and Social Commission for Asia and the Pacific, besides being an expert on the Council of Europe on cybercrime, to mention only a few. Dr. Pavan Dugal is the president of Cyber Law Asia, Asia's pioneering organization committed to the passing of the dynamic cyber laws in the Asian continent. He has delivered a high-level policy statement at the World Summit on Information Society, organized by policy-making bodies such as International Communications Union, UNESCO, UNCTAD, and UNDP in Geneva, Switzerland in 2015. As a thought leader, Dr. Dugal has suggested that India requires a new legislation that is wholly dedicated to cybersecurity. He is actively engaged in cyber law literacy and has trained more than 20,500 students across 168 countries of the world. He has spoken at over 2,000 conferences, seminars, and workshops in the last 7 years, and has lectured extensively in select law colleges. As a writer, he has made his mark with 137 books on various aspects of the law in the last 20 years. Mr. Dugal, it is our honor and privilege to listen to your talk on this very relevant topic, gender-based violence, issues, and concerns. Before I request you to elaborate on the topic, I would like to put in a word on the format of this session. Dr. Dugal would be speaking on this topic for about half an hour, and following which there would be a 15-minute question and answer round. Participants can put up their questions during the talk in the chat box, or else can wait for their turn during the question and answer session. Dr. Dugal, over to you, sir. Dr. Dugal?
Ma'am, there is a technical problem. Sir will be joining us soon.
Okay, yes. Right around. I think in the meantime, I'd like to tell our, yes, I think he's here.
Yes, ma'am, by the time we'll have a short video.
Yeah, please.
Shilpa ma'am, we have with us Pawan sir.
Yes. Today, as we introduced to our participants the illustrious care of you, sir, and I request you to speak on this topic: gender-based violence issues and concerns. Over to you, sir. Sir, kindly unmute. So you need to unmute yourselves. Yes, sir.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Apologies for my delayed coming in because I was on another webinar which got slightly delayed. Today, cyberspace is our common playfield. We are presuming this playfield to be our own. We are presuming that our own rules would apply here. And therefore, there's an implicit faith of complacency, security, and of being absolutely comfortable with this paradigm. But none of these so-called expectations have any specific ground reality positionings. I believe that today, internet is a constantly shifting paradigm. Its contours are constantly reshaping their colors and features. And in this context, when I look at protecting people from all genders, I find that internet can be a pretty vicious life cycle. The problem areas. The first problem area, internet gives you a promise of so-called anonymity. Come to a specific portion of the internet, which is the dark, deep internet or the dark net, and you have an added layer of promise. Not only will you be anonymous, but your identity will never be disclosed to any law enforcement agencies or any state actors. So in a scenario like this, when you have this so-called complete promise of anonymity, as a human, you invariably want to dive deep into your deepest secrets. You want to engage in such behavior that you would not normally engage in your day-to-day lives. Why? Because the society is watching you. There's societal fear and pressure. You do not want your reputation to be sullied. But once you are absolutely convinced that you are in a zone where no one is watching you, where no one can identify you, you can very quickly turn into a beast. You can target people, hit them below the belts, use all kinds of unparliamentary language, sexist language, or other stuff for the purposes of targeting people of all gender. Primarily it's women, but also men. Today's world, we are suddenly realizing that people want to give vent to their sadistic tendencies by coming on to this anonymous portion of the internet and targeting people. And unfortunately, much that the world is united on the issue of protecting or fighting against child pornography, it's not so much united on gender justice, specifically in terms of protecting women from all kinds of abuse online. Yes, go to any country, child pornography is an offense. Go to any law enforcement agency, the focal interests are very clear. We must go with a heavy hand against child abusers. But come on to protecting the women, I find countries have different varying approaches. And these varied approaches clearly often tend to differing kinds of results as we go forward. So in this space, I realize that there's a lot of space for working for betterment, working for enabling the rule of law, for enabling justice and other manifestations in a best way forward that we can do. Now, clearly, when I look at the cyber legal framework at a global level, I find it's not even in place. There's no one international cyber law in place. There's no one international cyber security law or legal treaty in place. So on a scenario like this, when it comes to protecting women and children from abuse, misuse, and all kinds of targeting, harassment, stalking online, one finds that there's a vacuum at a global level. Yes, we know that the International Universal Declaration of Human Rights applies to the internet. We know that both women and children have a right to a dignified human life, and that includes a right to uphold their dignity, a right for them to be left alone, a right not to be interfered in their enjoyment of their digital liberties, and a right to flower themselves as well-meaning, well-rounded, balanced personalities of tomorrow. But we quickly realize that the legal frameworks are not in place enough to support this kind of a broad, holistic vision. On top of it, one realizes that when one comes to the national level, even countries are not pretty much unanimous in terms of the minimum standards that they need to adopt in this direction. So we find that different countries have started adopting different methodologies and standards of protecting women and children. Children, yes, child pornography is one component of child protection. But there's far more elements which don't necessarily come into child pornography, but which are equally detrimental to the growth of children as well-balanced personalities. And hence, I think countries need to adopt new parameters, new frameworks, new approaches, and new perspectives in this regard. Let's come to the Indian ecosystem to give an example. In India, we have the Indian Information Technology Act 2000, which is Indian cyber law. The Indian cyber law was enacted 20 years back, came into effect from 17th of October 2000. It was never a gender-specific law. It was never a law that was meant to protect women and children. On the contrary, it was a complete generic law that was meant to promote e-commerce and the electronic format. It was a law that was primarily meant to provide a legal foundation for growth of electronic governance in the country. It was a legal framework that went ahead and amended different laws of the country, namely the Indian Penal Code, the Bankers' Books Evidence Act, the Reserve Bank of India Act, and of course, the Indian Evidence Act. But protecting women, protecting children, that was not a priority for the IT Act. Yes, in the version that it was passed in the year 2000, it did come up with a chapter Roman 11, called offenses, where certain offenses acts were declared. Now, therein, in section 67 in the IT Act in 2000, they had made publishing, transmission, as well as causing to be published or transmitted in the electronic form, obscene electronic information as an offense. So they did not even cover child pornography. They just covered one thing on obscenity, and that was all. So one of the key criticism points of the IT Act in the year 2000 to 2008 was that it was only talking about general pornography being targeted, and child pornography was not specifically targeted. Come the 2008 amendments, and we found a specific section being added, being section 67, capital B, specifically focusing on child pornography. But still also, issues like cyber stalking didn't find mention. Identity theft was covered. Cheating by personation by using a computer resource was covered under section 66D of the IT Act, under the 2008 amendments. But cyber bullying, cyber trolling, cyber harassment against women, against children, that was something that was not specifically covered. Instead, they had brought in a new section, section 66, capital A of the IT Act, which was a kind of a all-season provision. We could invoke that in a variety of cases where women or children were being targeted, because whenever something was sent using a computer system or a communication device that was grossly offensive or menacing in character, then clearly it became an offense. So we used to cover a large number of incidents targeting women and children under section 66A of the IT Act. But come 2015, and in the historic judgment of Shreya Singhal versus Union of India, we realized that the Supreme Court found that section 66 capital A of the IT Act did not really fulfill the minimum parameters of the constitutional principles enshrined under Article 19 of the Constitution. Consequently, it went ahead and struck aside Section 66A of the IT Act. Since 2015 March, this section is no longer on the law books and is not available for the benefit of protecting women and children. Come Nirbhaya case, and the entire nation's conscience was jolted. The government responded by coming up with new amendments to the Indian Penal Code. We had new sections, including on stalking, and some portion of cyber stalking was also sought to be covered under Section 354D of the Indian Penal Code. But that was not comprehensive. With the result, we realized that large number of areas where women and children were cyber stalked was not specifically sought to be covered within the ambit of Section 354D of the Indian Penal Code. So from those days till today, we find that cyber criminals have now gone ahead and polished their weaponry, sharpened their knives to specifically keep on increasing targeting women and children. And these incidents are constantly increasing in terms of their ambit, in terms of their scope and their frequency. In this context, the coming of COVID-19 has actually resulted into putting a last nail into the coffin. It is like the Achilles heel. Well, come COVID-19 and come the national lockdowns, you suddenly realize that the world increasingly, almost overnight, adopted digitization. But you also did not realize that during this period, cyber criminals and pedophiles increasingly started coming up with new innovative approaches targeting women and children. Consequently, we began to see some new trends. Number one, the golden age of cybercrime has already begun. That means the kind of frequency that we are now seeing in terms of cybercrimes at a global level has massively increased. We've not seen such similar increase from the time internet was introduced till today. Number two, pedophiles have massively enhanced the scope of their activities, have massively started targeting all kinds of women and children. So in a scenario like this, the onus becomes even more relevant and topical for the law enforcement agencies, as also for the lawmakers, that they come up with appropriate, effective mechanisms to provide effective legal remedy to the affected persons. Clearly, a lot of stuff needs to be put in this place. We haven't seen much action. Yes, the Personal Data Protection Bill 2019 is currently pending before the Joint Parliamentary Committee of the Indian Parliament. But even that, while it's trying to protect some portion of data of women and children, it's not going to be of any effective relief or benefit for targeted gender-based victims. So in a scenario like this, I think the onus is going to lie on the government. The government will increasingly have to start quickly reorganizing its priorities. You see, if you start protecting the women and children of the country and take that as your topmost priority, you suddenly start addressing more than half of the total population of the country. You suddenly start giving a big service to this entire nation where women have been seen as a manifestation of Mother Goddess, where respecting women has been an integral part of the Vedic culture, has been an integral part of our cultural strains and traditions. But today, come westernization, come the new winds of change from the other parts of the world, and you quickly start realizing societal standards are changing, perspectives are changing. And therefore, it's okay for people to be bystanders by while women and children are being targeted or ruthlessly being told online for no fault of their own. I think as we go forward, quickly, the world needs to change. The government needs to own this up. A lot of good work is being done by a number of governmental agencies, but clearly far more needs to be done in terms of enhancing the cyber legal frameworks. I don't think the current cyber legal frameworks are adequate enough to protect women and children. I also don't think that the cyber legal frameworks of today have the adequate teeth to have a message of deterrence. Today, there is no message of deterrence. Today, a man believes he can target a woman, a child, and then go ahead and do his activities with impunity, knowing fully well that he's not going to be caught. And he further knows that even if he gets caught, it's going to be a minor offense where he can use his traditional Indian Jugaad School of Management, he can go ahead and do a variety of activities whereby he can go ahead and obliterate his electronic footprints. I believe those kinds of messaging have to stop. A message of deterrence has to be given in to all stakeholders that, look, the law is increasingly focusing on protecting women and children. We need to have our law enforcement agencies more sensitized on adopting a user-friendly approach while dealing with these gender-based crimes. I ultimately believe the more capacity building we can bring amongst the various stakeholders, specifically women and children, the better it will be. And therefore, I have been advocating that you will have to start incorporating cyber law education and cybersecurity education as an integral part of your school curriculum from the first standard onwards. That's in a nutshell, I think, what we need to do. Everybody has to contribute. The government alone cannot contribute in this regard. Every stakeholder in the digital and mobile ecosystem have to contribute their small bit so that we can protect women, we can protect children, because these women and children are the foundation for India's progress, India's growth in the coming times. And I believe everybody will have oodles to contribute in terms of not just enhancing awareness, not just in creating more capacity building, but also in contributing their specific intellectual, physical, and other inputs in making not just women and children more secure and safe, but also in making cyberspace far more a secure and safer place to live. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be happy to answer any specific questions that you may have. Thanks.
Dr. Dugal, we're so glad that you joined us and gave us this very engaging talk on gender-based violence issues and concerns. We have a lot of students asking us questions. If you may permit, I'm going to ask a few of them.
Please.
One of the students is asking this question: do you think that gender-based violence has increased as we enter the digital space? If yes, then why? What changes have been made since since encountered cases like boys' locker room and similar cases to them?
Can you just repeat the first portion of the question?
Yeah, he or she is asking, do you think that gender-based violence has increased as we have entered the digital space?
Sure, thanks. I believe gender-based violence has massively increased ever since we've entered the digital space. As I was mentioning, the coming of COVID-19 and lockdowns have further given a very fertile ground for further increase of these kinds of incidents. Because the Indian law lacks deterrence, people get a feeling that they can do anything and they can get away. And unfortunately, that messaging of deterrence has gone slightly missing. And that's a historical mistake that India had made in the amendments in the 2008 year in the Information Technology Act, where, barring a few cybercrimes, almost all cybercrimes were made as bailable offenses. So today, cybercrime is not even looked at the very serious angle by the law enforcement agencies. You go with a normal crime, they think a murder, a rape, a kidnapping is far more serious than a cybercrime, without realizing a cybercrime is something that can prejudicially and irreversibly impact you professionally, socially, personally, medically, mentally, as also physically. So I think the incidents have massively increased. That's why the need for having these kinds of webinars where at least people are sensitized to this growing, changing ground reality. There's a need for sensitizing the government. You will have to go ahead and reprioritize your priorities. There'll be a specific requirement in this direction of ensuring that we are going and taking all steps so as to prevent these kinds of gender-based violence cases. Because look at cyberbullying. That's massively increased in the country. Look at cyber trolling. Today, it appears to be the birthright of every netizen to go ahead and troll another. Under what basis are people having this so-called perceptions of birthrights? I mean, clearly, men are born equal, but they're all chained in chains. But that does not mean that gives you an added mental presumption to presume that because you're on the internet, you have some added new, shall I say, privileges which allow you to go ahead and engage in gender-based violence. People have to be sensitized that the impact of these gender-based violence cases, whether it's through cyber bullying, cyber trolling, cyber harassment, cyber stalking, they can be devastating. These impacts can be leaving scars for a lifetime, and that could completely change the further development and evolution of the personality of the target victim. So clearly, we have to give topmost priority. Cases are massively increasing. From March, September, I've seen some massive increase in pedophilic activity in the country because pedophiles realize here's a wonderful time. The entire nation is fighting COVID-19. Nobody is going to go ahead against and target child pedophiles. So these guys have gone ahead and targeted all kinds of children and women. I believe this entire emerging, changing landscape has to be sensitized to the government as a whole. They have to now come up with effective remedies. I believe strong punishments and stringent fines have to be the need of the hour. I believe you need to get test convictions, which are currently missing. People get a feeling, chalta hai. Okay, I can do anything, it's chalta hai. I'll use jugaad and I'll get out. Once we start giving that deterrent message that if you are going to be caught, then this is the kind of legal consequences that you'll have to face. And once that messaging gets percolated to the community of the netizens, I believe we could start making a positive, cogent impact upon the fight to go ahead and control these gender-based criminal activities. Thanks.
Yes, sir. Questions are actually pouring, sir, but since we're running short of time, we'll not be taking more questions. I thank you, sir, for this wonderful, wonderful talk. Now, I request Mr. Pavan Kumar Gupta, Head, Department of Law, to please propose the vote of thanks for the session.
Sir, kindly unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you, Shilpa ma'am. First of all, I am highly thankful to Dr. Pawan Duggal that for sparing such valuable time. And despite your busyness, as you already said that you were engaged in a webinar, and then I am highly thankful and with your excellence that you proved your excellence today again, sir, that you were given a very low time, that you are given that keeping in view your excellence in the field. And at the very outset, you are given very few time to speak. So, but you proved your excellence that in a very short time, and you have narrated each and every pros and cons of the topic. So, and our students should be highly benefited and with your elaboration. And you came here and words are very few to offer so much. So thank you very much, sir, for to be with us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Now we proceed to the valedictory session. And for this, I hand over the session to Ms. Purnima Gupta, Department of Law.
A very warm, can I start?
Yes, ma'am.
A very warm good evening to one and all. I, Purnima Gupta, Assistant Professor, Department of Law, Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, welcome you once again in today's webinar's valedictory session on gender-based violence in digital space in collaboration with National Commission for Women. Our distinguished chief guest, Ms. Vandana Gupta, Deputy Director General, Department of Telecommunication, Our founder and chief advisor MAIMS, Dr. Nand Kishore Garg, Director General MAIMS, Professor S.K. Garg, Advisor MAIMS, Professor Dr. G.P. Govil, Director MAIMS, Professor Dr. Ravi Kumar Gupta, Professor Vinita Gupta, Convener, and Dr. Shweta Gagneja, Co-Convener of the webinar, members of the organizing committee, galaxy of intellectuals, colleagues, people from the fraternity, and my dear students. Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. Every celebration is an experience. The external fades away, and the internal lingers and echoes in the most depth of our hearts. We are reminded that events like this one are milestones on the journey of life and reminders of God's vitality all through. As we are here for today's valedictory ceremony, it is the time, and I invite thematic rapporteurs to present their reports for 5 technical sessions held today. I invite Ms. Preeti Bansal, Department of Business Administration, Dr. Nisha Dhanraj Devani, Department of Law, Dr. Sanjay Mangla, Department of Economics, Ms. Sumedha Datta, Department of Business Administration. I invite Preeti Bansal, ma'am.
Thank you, Purna. Good evening, one and all. It was indeed a pleasure to have amongst us Ms. Manisha Agarwal, cyber expert, Supreme Court of India, as one of the resource persons to enlighten us in the webinar today on the topic Gender-Based Violence in Digital Space, sponsored by National Commission for Women. Ms. Manisha appreciated participation by male counterparts in this webinar on gender-based violence, as it signifies that the male members of the society are willing to take responsibility and are making efforts to reduce crime against women. She then enlightened us about the fact that cyberspace is pervasive and therefore women can be subjected to crime at any place, in any way, and at any time of the day. She then briefly compared and explained the traditional as well as online ways of stalking a woman and also highlighted the fact that the laws which deal with traditional crimes are very well applicable and sufficient in dealing with online crimes. She further urged all the participants to take due precautions while using social media websites and applications, just like we take precautions in physical space. Traditionally, all of us avoid going out at night. Similarly, in the cyberspace, she gave us the golden rule of not sharing personal details and not posting pictures on social media for various reasons. She highlighted that nothing can ever be forever deleted from online platform and it can anytime come back to you. Also, the content that we upload has digital footprints, which can reveal one's personal details, such as home office address. She cautioned us that websites do not take responsibility for the content uploaded on them and behave like a dump pipe. Hence, the responsibility of our society lies on our shoulders, and it's time we behave like smart pipes. She then briefed us about the Information Technology Act 2000, whereby a person can be jailed for uploading gender disturbing material or obscene content, and also for concealing one's true identity while signing up on online portals. She further explained a few provisions of POSH Act 2013, which is for preventing sexual harassment at workplace. She clarified that even if beyond stipulated working hours, the boss cannot legally ask a subordinate to act in an undesirable manner. Anyone who is subjected to any written form of violence can take a print of the same as the proof against the wrongdoer and seek legal help. Ms. Agarwal briefed us about two acts and reiterated that crimes such as asking for dowry, outraging a woman's modesty, which has been committed since time immemorial in the society in either online or offline mode or both can be addressed using the existing legal provisions. Overall, the session was quite informative and meaningful. Now I request Ms. Nisha Dhanraj to present the report for the second session. Thank you.
It is indeed a pleasure to present a report for the second session. I, Nisha Dhanraj Devani from the Department of Law, will be presenting the points of discussion that were taken in session 2. Session 2 was based on understanding of gender-based violence that was taken by Dr. Anurag Deep from ILA Institute, New Delhi. The points of discussions were, first of all, Dr. Anurag Deep discussed in detail the meaning, concept, genesis of the term, understanding, gender, and violence, where he deliberated that gender is not only female-based, but it can be sex-neutral too. Then further, the fundamental duties as given under Article 51A of the Constitution of India was discussed in detail with respect to women. Third, the kinds of violence such as physical, psychological, and expression-based violence was also focused in relation to digital space, and it was also discussed that it can be unknown and unpredictable. Further, gender-based violence in cyberspace and how young female can be targeted was also deliberated with the dent of explanation over duty-based and right-based society. Further, depending upon the mode and manner of commission of online offences, Dr. Anurag Deep had focused on the provisions which are available in India, for example, IT Act and IPC. In IPC, Dr. Anurag Deep had discussed in detail the relevance of Section 354 and Section 509 of IPC and Section 166A of CIPC. Apart from that, Section 66E, 67, Section 67A of IT Act was also discussed in detail. Along with this, there was POCSO Act, which was also focused by Dr. Anurag Deep. Apart from that, the responsibility of civil society through education and the role of researcher and the institution was also emphasized. According to Dr. Anurag Deep, there are 5 ways of enforcement which are required to enforce the cyber law. First is education, second is persuasiveness, third is it has to be made compulsory, and the next is coercive measures have to be taken by the society, and the last is punitive remedies. Thank you so much. The session which was taken by Dr. Anurag Deep was very informative and elaborative in nature.
A very happy good afternoon to everybody. And I'm happy to present the report for technical session 3, which was conducted by Professor Debrati Halder from United World School of Law. And she is also the Managing Director, Center for Cyber Victim Counseling. Indeed, the session was really enriching in terms of knowledge, starting from explaining the various types of digital violence against gender, and they might be against men and women both, which was actually a very unique point presented by the speaker. She beautifully explained the various types of gender-based violence in digital space, and which were related to text-based violence, sometimes through emails, sometimes through text messages. I also want to add one thing in that sometimes we find such type of text-based violence through social media, be it Facebook or LinkedIn. The another one was image-based violence, where the images are captured at public places or parks or even beaches, and those images are morphosized by the perpetrators. And then the next one is audio and visual-based violence, which may contain abusing and some other types. Then Professor Devrati also pointed out the various types of important issue, be it cybercrime, cyber stalking, cyber bullying, and very importantly, copyright violations. Then she presented a beautiful interrelations through the routine activity theory among the three important stakeholders of this whole game, I should say. And those three stakeholders or players are victim, perpetrator, and guardians. Perpetrator, who is abusing or making an act of violence against the victim, and it is the responsibility of guardians to protect the victim from such violences. And the guardians may include the parents of the victim, and very importantly, the police, which has a bigger role to play, and some other institutions of the country, be it court or our government institutions. Then the session also provided major challenges which are becoming hindrances to provide justice to the victims of gender-based violence, be it physical space or the digital space. And those challenges include mainly the social mindset of the people or victim. Normally we see that victims, specifically in the suburban areas or even the rural areas, they do not report the violence committed against them. Then the laws, of course, we have different types of laws to protect such violences, but there is a need for coherences among these laws. Then jurisdiction, which was very important in regard to the violence in digital space, because there is no specific clarity of the jurisdiction of the gender-based violence. So therefore, there is a need for aligning the jurisdiction issues regarding the gender-based violence in digital space. And then, of course, victims' irrational coping techniques. So these are some of the challenges which were highlighted by the speaker, leading to the delay in justice for the victims. Then she also provided beautiful conclusion and suggestions to get and stopping the gender, providing the justice to the victims. And very important suggestion is the awareness. I think it is the need of the hour to to make people aware about their rights and duties for stopping such actions. Then collaborations, there is a need to collaborate among different agencies, be it police departments, judiciary, NGOs, social workers, or others in the society. And then legalization of the issues. And of course, there is a very important need of properly trained officers, properly trained police investigation officers who are dealing with such cases. So overall, the session was really very good and enriching in terms of knowledge, which not only discussed the issue in detail of gender-based violence, but also provided and highlighted the important challenges being faced by the society, as well as tried to provide some of the important suggestions to cater to these issues. And I think to create a beautiful and a safer society for both the genders, be it men or women or even the transgenders. Thank you. Now I invite Ms. Nisha Dhanraj Diwani to present the report of the next session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mangla. I will be presenting the points of discussion which were taken in the fourth session by Dr. Karnika Seth. The title of this session was Cyber Law. Sorry, the title of the session was Cybercrime Against Women and Legal Challenges in Enforcement. First of all, Dr. Karnika has taken her personal practice examples, and where she focused on harassment and cyber stalking against women. And with the dent of her example, she explained the meaning of violence against women, and also the harassment and stalking cases. The next, she focused on the laws which are available in India. For example, in IPC, we have Section 509 and Section 354. In IT Act, we have Section 67, 67A, 67B, 66E, and where she talked about the breach of privacy. The next she talked about POCSO Act, and in POCSO Act she focused on Section 11, Section 12, Section 13, along with Child Pornography Act. Apart from these all, she focused more on Indecent Representation of Women Act. She showed her concern that how implementation and enforcement is a big challenge, as is a hesitation to report to the cases. Second, there is no FIR registration. And third, there's a robust arrangement. And that is totally illegal when we talk about the safety of the women. Apart from that, she focused on the civil and criminal remedies. She showed that if the matters are below 2 crore rupees, the matter have to be filed to the district court. If the matters are above 2 crore rupees, the matter can be filed in the Delhi High Court. Apart from that, she showed her concern that there is no special courts for cybercrime, and that had become the suggestion from her side that we in India, we need special courts to deal with the crimes against women, especially in cyberspace. Apart from that, she focused more on Vishaka judgment, and she showed that how this Vishaka judgment has changed the mode of the civil society. More and more judgments like that are required in our Indian society. Apart from that, in suggestions, she focused that there should be a cross-border convention for live streaming cases and harassment against women. In the last, she focused that we need to approach the safety measures, such as there should be a fearless reporting of the cases against women. Second, we need to collect more and more evidence the same required to come to the justice. The next, we have to stand for our rights. The next, we have to keep faith in the system. The next, there must be cybersecurity policy. And with these all, the session was very enriching and knowledgeable for our law students. Thank you so much.
At the outset, it was a pleasure listening to Dr. Pavan Duggal, our resource person of Session 5 on the topic Gender-Based Violence, Issues and Concerns. And I'm here to highlight the points raised during this session. Dr. Pavan Duggal, an internationally celebrated cyber law and cybersecurity subject expert, talked about incorrect expectations we nurture about cyberspace. As a human being, one tends to reveal their deepest secrets in this dark layer of internet, which promises us a platform of anonymity, and thus tempting people to employ it as a platform to vent out their revenge and harass people. At a global level, steps need to be taken to protect the digital integrity of women and children from stalking, online abuse, pornography, etc. As a thought leader, Dr. Duggal has suggested that India requires a new legislation that is wholly dedicated to cybersecurity. He has commented that the Indian cyber law is miles behind the realities of social media, and there is a need to amend the Information Technology Act 2000 to put it in sync with the requirements of time. The IT Act 2000 was completely silent about women protection and child pornography on the online platform. Though the act was revised, but cyberbullying, stalking, cyber He has highlighted the fact that there is an exponential increase in cybercrime activities and massive growth in cybersecurity breaches during COVID-19. In his opinion, COVID-19 had put the last nail in the coffin on this existing gloomy picture, and thus the onus of framing more responsible laws has become all the more urgent. Sir has commented that the government's move to amend the Indian Information Technology Act of 2000 is not enough. Every stakeholder has to contribute their small bit to protect women and children who are the future face of a country. Dr. Pavan Duggal's extremely lucid session ended on a positive note that we need to put our best foot forward to make the cyberspace a safe platform for one and all. Towards the end of the session, Dr. Duggal emphatically stressed that test convictions and deterrent messages can play a constructive role in managing the issue of gender-based violence in digital space. Overall, the session was highly fruitful and knowledgeable. Thank you. Over to you, Ms. Purnima Gupta, the moderator of the session.
Thank you so much, rapporteurs, for such a wonderful, in-depth report. We have amongst us our distinguished chief guest, Ms. Vandana Gupta, Deputy Director General, Department of Telecommunication, and it is my proud privilege to introduce her. Ma'am has done her BSc in the year 1985 and her MSc Botany, MPhil in Botany in the year 1987 and 1988 respectively. She has also done her LLB from Faculty of Law, University of Delhi. Presently, she is pursuing her LLM from Department of Law, Guru Gobind Singh Indraprastha University. She joined civil services in the year 1990 and also served in various departments such as Ministry of Women and Child Development and also in National Commission for Women. She is presently serving as a Deputy Director General in Department of Telecommunications in Delhi. Now I request her to kindly address the participants. Over to you, ma'am.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself. Ma'am, unmute, please.
Now I'm audible. I'm sorry, I'm not very tech savvy, and this is very new development that has come up. So I'm still struggling with this. Anyway, thank you very much, Purnima ji, for giving me this introduction. A very good evening to all of you, respected Professor Dr. G.P. Govil, Professor Dr. Ravi Gupta, Shweta ji, Vinita ji, and all the faculty members, and very worthy, listeners or participants of this webinar. First of all, I want to congratulate the organizers for organizing this webinar on such a important and burning topic of these days. And otherwise also this topic is very close to my heart. This is gender-based violence in digital space. We keep on hearing many terms like cyberbullying, cyber violence, online harassment. We have heard these terms, but these terms fail to capture the spectrum of violent behavior that occurs in digital space and disproportionately affects women, girls, and sexual minorities, that is LGBTQI community. These terms also do not capture the severity and lasting impact for the victims or survivors of the cyber crime or violence. This is also called as technology facilitated or online gender-based violence, which is very complex and far-reaching. It occurs everywhere. Which is the study that I am referring to. It showed, which is very recent also, that, and this is based on the reported cases, that worldwide it is ranging from 33% the countries like Kenya and South Africa to 40% in the countries like US. It comprises a spectrum of behaviors like, and everybody knows it, still I'm just touching upon stalking, bullying, sexual harassment, defamation, hate speech, and exploitation. Women, girls, and LGBTQI individuals are disproportionately impacted by this. The violence is often sexual, as the perpetrators threaten sexual violence or disparage the appearance and sexual desirability of the victim. It may result in emotional distress, loss of status, loss of productivity, depression, and sometimes suicide also. And there are many other implications. There are very few interventions, and those interventions basically are related to the reporting and recording the experiences of the victims and the survivors, and at the most giving them the support by institutional support, etc. But very strangely, much is not done on the preventive measures. And here I want to touch upon certain points. I hope that the earlier speakers have, maybe they must have touched upon this, but still I would like to very briefly, because I know it is coming to a close and not everybody wants to have a long session, but still because it is important, so I want to touch upon that very important stakeholder in this landscape of the gender-based violence in the digital space are the internet intermediaries. That is, those entities who provide the internet service to the users. And there are rules and which are policies which are made by the government and issued from time to time, but there seems to be some reluctance on the part of the intermediaries to really form the guidelines and rules on their own to govern the acts on the internet, which prove to be hazardous, as in the case of, as we are talking about the gender-based violence. So in a 2018 study of world's 22 most important, most powerful internet, mobile and telecommunication companies, it was found, and who give at least half of the world's 4.2 billion internet service to the internet users, they fell short of disclosing basic information to the users about the design, management, and the governance of the digital platform and services that affect human rights. In June 2018, UN resolved for the first time on preventing and reporting the violence against women and girls in digital contexts. The resolution also showed that women and girls are less likely to benefit from the opportunities that the internet offers for the enjoyment of their human rights, which therefore deepens the gender inequalities, besides the fact that online GBV, that is gender-based violence, I'm going to use this acronym time and again, are increasingly mirroring and amplifying the violence and discrimination that women and girls face offline also. So now I will like to discuss a few areas where intermediaries have to be roped in, they have to be made responsible. One by one, I would like to just touch upon. The first is naturally the privacy. The right to privacy, which is recognized by Article 12 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights and Article 17 of International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, they are intertwined with the right to live free from the gender-based violence. The protection of privacy and is further critical with data protection norms challenged these days by the increasing and massive collection of and storage of data by the intermediaries and other corporations. Most of them, such as social media platforms or companies providing services via websites, require the users to sign terms of the service, which is commonly known as TOS. Now, they force the users to sign these TOS, but which make them free to use and commoditize their data, their personal data, in whichever way they want. TOS have another interesting thing attached to them. On one hand, the TOS contain the clauses that prohibit the user from using the company's services for illegal purposes, like copyright violations, frauds, extortions, child pornography, and whatnot. However, and this is important, TOS do not specifically mention any human rights abuses, especially based on gender, sexuality, or related issues. This reflects the common reluctance of the companies to engage directly with the human rights issues and rather only have liability. They prefer to have liability only for the legal obligation to the country of the residence or user. On the other hand, disproportionate powers of users, they are bulk users also of the internet services. They are able to negotiate the TOS with the intermediaries, and in that case also the ordinary user is at a disadvantage, and his personal data is at stake and can be hacked into or can be misused by the unscrupulous elements for the harassment online. So it is critical to shift the conversation from liability to responsibility as companies collecting and storing data should bear the responsibility to protect their users' personal data. Second, I would like to talk about transparency. There is little or no transparency of the internal decision-making process of the intermediaries, and the application of human rights standards regarding online GBV also, they are not very clearly, have shown it is not easily approachable, or it can be seen. Many intermediaries are now developing mechanisms to respond to the complaints of the GBV, but there is fundamental lack of clarity as to how to make a complaint, number one, and there is little knowledge of the effectiveness of such mechanism. What is more, in addressing the complaint, sometimes these intermediaries, they forget to follow their own established mechanism to address these complaints, and in the end, they end up even harassing more the complainant. Another thing that I would like to point out here is that most of the headquarters of the most of the intermediaries are housed in the global north. So the users and the complainants of the down south or the south global areas or other countries also, they are at a disadvantage. If they have to make a complaint, there is a clear English bias in the intermediaries offices or whatever organizations. So if the complainant is not able to make the complaint in English language, then sometimes or many a times, his or her complaint is not addressed quickly, or if addressed, it is wrongly understood also. So this is needed to be taken care of by the intermediaries. Then the accountability. Most intermediaries shift the burden of addressing online GBV to justice delivery system of the country of the user. In a study covering Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, among others, it was revealed that, number one, the studied corporation had no public record of how the customer service department operates, their customer service department operates. And there is no clear or easy to access and transparent procedure to deal with the complaints of violation by users vis-a-vis the users of the website or the platform. So greater attention therefore is needed to ensure that the policies are formed and followed strictly by the intermediaries for upholding the international human rights principles and non-discrimination and equality. And they take into account contextual factors also, like culture, like language, etc., in dealing with the complaints, etc., of the online GP. Then the sexual rights. This is a little controversial, but I would definitely like to touch upon it. The internet is widely recognized as critical for feminist and GB, the sexual minority groups advocacy. In a report in 2017, it was found that 88% of respondents responded that internet enables the increase of power, visibility, and communication. And organization of for the organizations of women and minorities, and 66% of respondents, they responded that internet is an important or very important medium of sexual expression. However, LGBTQI women and sexual rights activists suffer from particular stigma in the context of structural inequality, discrimination, and patriarchy. They are often victimized online through harmful and negative gender stereotypes, from negotiating censorship to dealing with a situation of surveillance. Activists also face proliferation of the texts and images that are racist, transphobic, or encouraging stereotypical views regarding the women and girls. Then I would like to touch upon another area, which is regarding freedom of expression. The ICT innovation offered by intermediaries also allows for the easy and rapid dissemination of digital material across multiple platforms and over various new networks. This widespread reach also comes with control over content regulation and censorship, which can lead to violation of right to freedom of expression, especially the right to a sexual expression. Here I would like to mention two cases. One is of Instagram case, students are advised to Google search about that. And another is of the Facebook, where their nudity policy, which is very strict. They remove, and they came under heavy criticism for removing an article on mammograms due to an image of women's exposed breast. Now, how to decide this? I think the word consent is the key word. So consent is crucial for differentiating lawful from unlawful and moral from immoral behavior or content in assessing whether there has been a violation of right to express with regard to dissemination of private data. Present guidelines to define consent by intermediaries do not go far enough. So it is, very discretionary on their part. Sometimes they remove the content, sometimes they don't remove. It is like that. It is the role of the internet intermediaries to emphasize the importance of content in the dissemination of consent in the dissemination of content, and comply with the international human rights standards, and in determining whether a violation of right to the expression has been committed or not. Then second last, I'm trying to rush because I really don't want to bore people. Right to online anonymity. Somebody has, I think I was hearing Kanika say it. So she was talking about anonymity, which is very important, especially for women activists, for the sexual minority groups like LGBTQI, to share their information, etc. And what do they do? I mean, to escape the harassment, the bullying, the persecution, etc. They make everybody may be knowing, two types of accounts. One is real account with their legal name, etc. And the other is fake account with adopted name. On that fake account, they share their views, their opinions, information, and whatnot with the group members of the same followings. But there are as I was mentioning the name of Facebook, very very strict policies of them, who insist upon maintaining only a real account. And sometimes it so happens that they, on some complaint or something like that, they insist on users to surrender their fake identity, and an overzeal maybe, or whatever their policies are. They end up doing maybe linking their fake accounts with their legal account, or they remove the account, and it sometimes results into the hunting down by the vigilante groups of these people. There have been cases in Nigeria where people were killed also. So anonymity, I believe, is a part of the privacy. I think it is a very essential part of the privacy, and it should be honored by the intermediaries. Then lastly, I would talk about algorithms and big data. It is also a very interesting area. In the digitized world of big data, what is personal and what is public data, the line has really blurred. Internet intermediaries hold increasingly power to monitor, regulate, and commoditize data, often without the user's consent. The big data, metadata, and technology and algorithms used to record the information comes with their own biases and are not neutral. This data never emerges in isolation, but are contingent on context, technologies, humans. They may be having their own biases, who put in this thing, like the algorithm, and the algorithms which collect, sort, and analyze them. There is evidence that the algorithms are designed to shape news feeds or search results, etc. I would just mention the 2016 investigation by the Guardian, who found that Google search algorithms systematically promote information that is either false or slanted with the extreme right-wing bias. Similar observation was made about Google's autocomplete function. To ensure that the digital ecosystem can promote gender equality, internet intermediaries must work in line with the UN guiding principles on business and human rights. They have to do this. It is their responsibility to ensure that internet is a space that empowers rather than subjugates women, children, and other sexual minorities. And finally, in a few words, I would also talk about the role of the state, though much is talked about Mr. Duggal, Miss Kanika also, and other speakers before me. But I would just, in a gist, I would like to say that if the state observes due diligence in tackling this menace, and this it can be controlled, and this due diligence can be expressed in the form of 5 P's. The first P is prevention, the second is protection. Both can be achieved by the state by massive, widespread awareness programs. Then third is the prosecution. They have to really do a very, very good job of prosecution. I can say that the women don't feel like, in a study, most of the women don't, it was revealed that most of the women don't they like to go to police with their complaints of harassment, online harassment of them. Because number one, they are not, as people have earlier also said in this webinar, that people are not aware of the law, the particular law that deals with it. And secondly, they have lost unfortunately, they have lost they didn't have earlier and now also any trust in the justice delivery system of the country. So prosecution has to be very, very, very good, and then punishment has to be exemplary. This is the 5th P. And lastly, the provision of redressal and reparation. They have to be, the victims and the survivors have to be supported in every which way, psychologically, socially, and whatnot, and they have to be protected in a way that they should not be subjected to repeat harassment. Our prosecution system is still not advanced enough to address the online GBV crimes. Not even every district of the country has got cyber crime cell. This I know from my days in the ministry also, and I just confirmed from one of my IPS batchmate yesterday, and he said, okay, he's from UP, and he said, yeah, this is the case. Not every district have even one single cyber crime cell, and those districts who are having, naturally they are having only one. So this shows that the police personnel is very, very much lacking in the technical know-how in dealing such crimes, which are very specialized kind of crimes. Plus, there is a lot of training required of the police personnel, not only on the technical ground, technical things angle, but also they have to be trained from psycho-social angle of this kind of crime. So I believe that if such steps are taken, I think, I again, at the risk of repeating myself, that out of all the stakeholders, I think internet intermediaries have the biggest role to play, and the steps are taken, then there is no reason why these crimes are brought under control. I once again thank the organizers and MAIMS to invite me to speak on this very in this very webinar, and thank you very much. Thanks.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your valuable and deep insights into the topic. The end of the story is a new beginning for many others. On this note, let us conclude a remarkable and memorable valedictory session. It is my proud privilege to introduce you all to our Director MAIMS, Professor Dr. Ravi Kumar Gupta, our source of motivation, our mentor, one and one for all of us. He has experience for over 25 years, including teaching and administrative assignments. He has keen interest in academics and research activities. He has guided research to 15 MPhil and 4 PhD research scholars, and many are presently registered with him in various other universities. He has published over 90 papers in journals of national and international repute and has edited 6 books in the areas of management and commerce. He has participated in more than 150 national and international conferences, seminars, workshops, FDPs, etc., in which he has chaired many technical sessions and delivered keynote address. I request him to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you. Very happy good evening to all of you. I'm audible? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You are audible.
Okay. A very happy good evening to all of you. This day has come to an end for all of us. After this full one-day National Commission for Women-sponsored national webinar on gender-based violence in digital space, I have been given this humble duty of submit vote of thanks at the end of this day of this one-day national webinar. Well, most respected chief guest of this valedictory session, Madam Vandana Gupta, Deputy Director, General Department of Telecommunication, my dear colleagues, dear students, ladies, gentlemen, and dignitaries attended throughout the day. We initiated our this day with the blessings of Parampita Parmeshwar to initiate this one-day national webinar, and now we have come to an end. That's why my first thanks goes to our Parampita Parmeshwar for our this successful completing this event which we planned for. And in the series of things, the guests who enlightened us throughout the day through their deliberations, in which, if I start with, first of all, the chief guest of this valedictory session, Madam Vandana Gupta, I convey my heartfelt thanks to you, ma'am, to accept our offer and enlighten us about the topic. In the inaugural session, we had an opportunity to have the chief guest, Madam Justice Manju Goyal, to be the chief guest in the inaugural session, who was also very kind enough to accept our invitation on our short notice, and she gave her thoughts and shared experiences. Thereafter, the various aspects of about this topic, gender-based violence in digital space, we are very fortunate enough that we approached to the experts, dignitaries in this area, and we were able to contact them, and they also obliged us to be here on this platform. Madam Manisha Agarwal, cyber expert, Supreme Court of India, who spoke on the overview of cyber lies in India. Dr. Anurag Deep, Associate Professor, Indian Law Institute, New Delhi, who spoke and shared his views on the understanding of gender-based violence. Thereafter, another Professor, Dr. Darbari Haldar from United World School of Law, Karnataka University, and also the Managing Director, Center for Cyber Victim Counseling, who shared his views on the topic of challenges in ensuring access to justice to the victim of gender-based violence. Then Karnika Seth, cyber law expert, Supreme Court of India, who shared his thoughts, her thoughts on cybercrime against women and legal challenges in enforcement. And the fifth resource person in the same series, Dr. Pawan Duggal, cyber expert, Supreme Court of India, shared his thoughts and experiences on gender-based violence, the issues and concerns. All five experts, technical experts, they shared their thoughts, their experiences through the deliberations. And after that, we had a very wonderful question and answer sessions also. Our students and faculty and staff also asked the questions, which were very duly responded by all the five experts in a very humble manner. So I convey my heartiest thanks on behalf of my this family and fraternity of Maharaj Agarsen Institute of English Studies and also the Maharaj Agarsen Technical Education Society, all those five technical experts, and also the both of the chief guest of the inaugural session, and also is present, Madam, who is present here with us in this valedictory session. I also find my humble duty to convey my heartiest thanks to our guiding force, and the person who is always enlightening us in our society, Maharaj Agarsen Technical Society, and he is none but one, but Dr. Nandkishore, who is the chief advisor and founder of this society, and always a guiding force, who also shared his views in the inaugural session. I convey my heartiest thanks on behalf of the MAIMS family to him, to you, sir. The other trustees, the members of the society, and other senior persons from our Maharaj Agarsen Technical Society, and also the MAIMS who associated and who had our company on this platform in today's national webinar. I also convey thanks for their blessings, for their humble presence, and also sharing their thoughts and experiences on the various platforms. I find my humble duty to convey my thanks to Professor G.P. Go. He is the person behind the show of getting the grant from National Commission for Women. I convey my heartfelt thanks to him also. In the same series, I find this my opportunity to convey a thanks to all my faculty and staff of Maharaj Agarsen Institute of Management Studies. They have done this event for sensitization and for creating awareness about this very topic which is the need of the hour for our students. Starting from that, I convey my thanks to the advisory committee who made the able guidance to the faculty and staff, to the organizing team. In that, I convey my thanks to Dr. Sangeeta Malik Dean, Professor Rajni Malhotra, Principal Department of Law, Professor Khurana, V.K. Khurana, Head Department of Business Administration and Coordinator IQAC, Dr. Manju Gupta, Head Department of Commerce, Dr. Parveen Gupta, Head Department of Law, and also the other senior faculty of our institute, Madam Sarita Garg, Dr. Lokesh Shindar, Dr. Umesh Pathak, and Dr. Manoj Verma, senior faculty in Department of Business Administration and our COE. And in the able guidance of this advisory committee, our organizing team, which is led by our convener of this webinar, Professor Vinita Gupta, Head Department of Journalism, as convener of this webinar, and Dr. Shweta Gagneja from Department of Law as a co-convener, who made this event a success. My heartfelt thanks to both of them also. And along with both of the faculty members as convener and co-convener, the other faculty members who worked neck to neck throughout the day and night for making this event a success, all the faculty members of organizing committee in various capacities, including Dr. Sanjay Mangala, Dr. Sumedha Datta, Mr. Parveen Kumar Singh, Mrs. Neetu Bansal, Mrs. Kamna Vaid, Mrs. Varna Kharbanda, Mrs. Shilpa Yesel, Mr. Bharat Vanga, Mrs. Preeti Bansal, and Dr. Charu Mohla, Mrs. Parampreet Kaur, Dr. Nidhi Chaudhary, Dr. Nisha Dhanraj Devani, and Mrs. Purnima. All have done in a very wonderful manner. I have come to know they work day and night for making this event a success. Thanks to this wonderful team. I have mentioned these names, but along with them, all the other faculty members, they have also contributed in one or the other way for making this event a success. Also, the staff from our MAIMS, which includes Mr. Surinder Garag, Anuj Chaudhary, and all others also, they have contributed to make this event a success. All other also faculty members, staff who contribute. And now, it is the number, and you can see the turn of the students for whom this program or the event was organized. Dear students, we have made this attempt to organize this event, which we could be successful after getting in a grant from the National Commission for Women also. And we had been successful to organize this event. So this was an attempt to acquaint you, to make you aware about the various aspects of this gender-based violence in the digital space. Hope you are enlightened, and since you participated in a very dignified way, and you also participated in a very participating way, shared your question and answers also, I convey my best wishes and blessings to all of you also. All the one who have contributed in one or the other manner, they deserve a big thanks from my side. But at the end, being I am the last speaker, but this is my, I find I am fortunate enough, I have this duty of giving vote of thanks. And since even it's my personal sharing. I was thinking we would be having or we would be enlightened about this topic after the end of this seminar. But I find it is not a matter of a capsule or a tablet, but rather we have received a booster over this topic. And rather, at some point of time, I find that I am a little bit confused also. But I think when we are confused, it gives us a motivation to learn in that area more and more. Since when we know nothing, we are not confused. When we know or come to know a little about, that's why then we are confused, and confusion leads to stimulate us to know better and more about the area. I hope this is that means it's a success of this event. But again, the success of the knowledge lies in its application. So at the end of this day, to all the dignitaries, to all the individuals who have participated in this webinar, to all my dear colleagues, faculty, staff, and dear students, I would request whatever you have gained, please apply to it. Since the utility of knowledge applies in its application only. And that's why we have a number of laws. But the point is, the laws are only to be abided by. That's why whatever we have learned, we try to sensitize within us and to apply among us. So that's why this webinar can become or prove as a success in the right earnest. Our chairman, our founder chairman, Dr. Manshogal, also mentioned, yes, in a society when we are sensitized, we are caring to each another, we follow our values, then not so much laws are needed. The laws are needed to regulate the society. But if we are self-regulated, self-motivated, and we are having our self-reliance and also we respect to each another, not so much laws are needed. Laws are only to regulate the society. That's why, anyhow, we have learned about a lot of laws. Let us apply these in the right earnest, so that this our today's day, which we have shared and expanded, and we have utilized full one-day webinar, then it can become a useful and a purpose. At the end, again, thanks to all of you, one and all, who have participated and contributed in one or the other manner for making our this event and to be with us on this platform. Thank you once again. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your kind words. We would conclude the event with National Anthem. Now I request everyone to please stand up at their respective places for the National Anthem as a mark of respect.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you so much, everyone.